Paladins PPL. We are excited to have you here for today. It is a great day of Paladins Premier League, and you know what? We have more to offer tomorrow. It's a doubleheader, that's right, and we have 4 teams, every team getting a doubleheader of themselves. So it's a double-double, and that, I think, promotes the in-and-out over 5 guys conversation, because 5 guys doesn't have a double-double. In-and-out does. That's their mainstay. I think we gotta end it there, right? Easy clap for the victory. Rain Day and Brittany are here to talk about it. Of course, our matchups today are going to be around Space Station, Envy, Renegades, Pittsburgh, all of that coming up. And let's take a look at the standings to give you a preview of what today will, I think, hold in store as far as the results.
This is where we sit, guys. Space Station Gaming 0-0-0. You're seeing that because they've had some visa issues, but they are resolved. They are all here in the building. They're going to play a lot of games to kind of catch up, right? This is week 4. This is when they're just getting into the swing of it. Renegades sitting there at 1-3, 1-3 for the Knights as well. That's the large part of who's playing today. NIP, of course, I think unexpectedly undefeated up there at 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, unexpectedly, that's for sure. And the fact that they've been able to kind of laser in, have that week of focus, and of course, taking care of what they need to take care of, which is training for this meta, it's really helped them out, man. They seem above and beyond everybody else. But the thing is, we got to talk about the teams that are playing right now. It's more of the bottom side of the PPL, the Renegades and the Pittsburgh Knights. And first off, with Renegades, they've had a couple of changes in the air, but it seems like Shadow and Invocal are here to stay.
And man, at this point, you're in week 4. I guess Loki gets here at the. I don't know when they play. I don't know if they play next week or not, but they play again earliest, next week. You're at week 5. At this point, you've played 5 weeks with Shadow.
Yeah, I don't
think
there's
a conversation of like, well, does Loki come back in at this point?
Well, from what we've heard, it's already happened, and this is what they're staying with right now. Invocal, obviously leading the charge. How do you think this affects him being the kind of go-to DPS for the squad?
I think it's great that he's the go-to DPS, because there's never been a conversation of, is this guy subbing for us? Is he going to be replaced? Are we just using him while we wait for somebody else? That's never really been the case for him, and he's really had nothing to prove, I think, as a result of that, and has done a really good job of doing what he does, which is, even if his team's losing, which they have been, being extremely positive and doing a ton of damage.
Vocal had a stellar opener. It was almost like a coming out party that, in the true sense of the PPL, was just phenomenal. This was in the last week, and this was admittedly a lesser performance, not only for him, but for Shadow and the Renegades in general. Do you think that last week maybe the potentiality of him being replaced, Loki coming back, kind of weighed on him, and now that that's more Shadow, you're here, it looks like you're going to be here for the foreseeable future, will open him up to perform again?
I think so. I think it is definitely going to take a weight off of his shoulders, because, he was already kind of tweeted out, like, I'm going back to, like, the minor league, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of where I'm going to sit. And since day one, we've been talking about this guy being like, man, regardless of what happens with Loki and Shadow, we feel like Shadow's the better fit for this team because of his champion.
Yeah, and that's really about it. And also, he had an amazing performance that showed he can do what he needs to do at this level against these players. Some great shots as well. And one of the things we've noticed is that the Renegades have had these kind of similar things they've gone to. Ice Mines in Game 2, their first map. They love to do that. The Eevee for Shadow. Invocal, whether it's on the Kinessa or on the Cassie, these have been staples of them. But the big thing that they haven't figured out quite yet is, how does Moonchopper's flex onto the aggressive damage roll really work for this team?
The one thing, I definitely still hold in a lot of regard the Renegades and what they can be. Everybody in this entire PPL, it still has yet to play other people.
And luckily, we're going to get a chance to talk with Moonchopper right now and hear how he feels about this game.
Today, Moon, you guys had a bit of a tough week last week, but how you guys feeling coming into today?
I'm sorry, could you ask that again?
You guys had a bit of a tough week last week, but you've had a week to regroup. How are you guys feeling coming into today?
Feeling pretty good, I would say. Yeah, feeling confident for today. Can't wait for the matches, honestly.
You guys haven't had a chance to play Pittsburgh yet, but you've had a chance to watch them a good bit. Is there anything on the other side you're looking out for?
I don't know. They're like good people over there, so I don't know. It's going to be fun playing against them and see their reactions, and I don't know.
Most importantly, we saw pictures of you guys working out yesterday. Were there any big winners or losers? The best workout, the worst workout in the group? No? Did you enjoy it, though? Everyone's stronger? Mentally tough, physically tough? All right. Well, that's it. You heard it here from the man himself. Good luck to you guys today. Thanks for chatting with me. Back to the guys on the desk.
Well, Moonchopper, he's a funny character, isn't he? He's a sweet guy, and I think he's excited to, and nervous a little bit to go into today.
Yeah, I mean, what I was kind of saying before we went to that interview was like, not everyone has played everyone yet in the PPL. Granted, last week, Renegades have to go up against VP, who just took down Envy and were looking incredible, and NIP, who are now the undefeated #1 seed in the PPL. So it's kind of like, yeah, those are some strong-ass teams. I don't know if I've really had the whole picture painted of what the Renegades can be yet, and I think this is a team that, has gotten down on themselves in the past, and they don't really feel like they're doing that. They don't have that like negative energy about them this season. They are out in the parking lot working out in the morning. They are here screaming,
I saw
having
that skills
fun.
training, the agility. Oh boy! I mean, you may lose in the game, but take them outside for a couple of hoops, you might be able to get some layups in. I like that idea. Moonchopper, blasting past you. I don't think he's dunking on anyone just quite yet. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh Knights, because they came in with a "I'm gonna dunk on you" mentality. They slammed down on Virtus Pro in week 1, and they beat them. But that was more about Virtus Pro not being put together yet. What do we have to say about Pittsburgh after seeing them last week taking a couple losses?
It almost feels like a little bit of the inverse, right? They came out really, really strong, and it's tough to have those perceptions in week #1 when it's really, that's all you have to go off is the one matchup that you have seen. But the Pittsburgh Knights, they are house down here, all moved in together, living like a family, and I feel like that is definitely something that you have going for you at this point. A lot of teams are having to deal with travel, being apart, not together all the time. This is a squad that I truly feel is going to nose to the grindstone and become one of the great teams in this league.
One of the things I'm really interested in is looking at how does Cuss infect this team, and how does Ricotta, taking the mantle of captain, prove himself? Because admittedly, he hasn't proven himself to be a successful captain at the PPL level. Even if it was at Splice, that was not a proven success rate. They weren't able to be getting the results that they wanted. And so now it's kind of interesting. It's this whole new journey of saying, can I do this at this high level and really lead this team?
I think what's ringing true for me right now is Diggy Dog saying when they replaced Koa with Alex, that one player changed it for them, right? That's a little bit of what I'm looking for from Ricotta and these Knights. Is this a group of 5 guys that can succeed? I have a lot of confidence. I know this guy's a great player.
Right.
He's doing a unique thing, which is leading from the DPS role. Right. It's not something a lot of people have done in the past. A lot of times DPS players they really do have to kind of tunnel vision on the matchup directly in front of them. And that's why, you see a lot of supports, maybe some front lines beat those IGLs, and rarely is the DPS doing those moves.
Quickly, have you seen him kind of improve over these weeks, or do you feel like it's been stagnant, still waiting for his kind of coming out party?
The Knights are still looking for their coming out party and still looking to find an identity, which I think is true of a decent amount of teams still in the league.
It's very interesting here. I cannot wait to see a little bit more of these guys, especially against Renegades, because it should be a true test of skill, a true test of measure, a true test of patience as well.
I think there's definitely something to be proven here for the Knights, and going up, having some games against Space Station this week, a team who hasn't been here and hasn't been scrimming, those are wins that they need.
Well, it's awesome. We get a chance to talk to the Knights coach, Vapor, see what he has to say.
Killing spree.
Thank you, guys. Alongside me now is Vapor, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Knights. Vapor, thanks for chatting with us this morning. You guys have had a little bit of time off now. How's the team been feeling? How you guys looking coming into today?
We're going to look really good. We had a really great practice week, and we worked on all the things that we needed to work on. We planned accordingly to what we had to do, and I think we're going to come out pretty strong in this match.
Looking at those plans, you haven't faced Renegades yet on the opposite side. Is there anything special or anything you guys have seen coming out of them that you've prepared for?
Nothing really too much in like the special category. We just been doing our thing, practicing what we need to work on, and we know what they do. We've been playing against them for a very long time now, and we know what they're going to come out with, and we're going to do our best.
Do you have any score predictions coming into today? Final map count.
Any score predictions? I would say being nice, I would say 4-2.
Nice is a good way to put it. Well, thank you for talking to us. Good luck to you guys today. Let's send it back to the guys at the desk to get it underway.
There was a really funny moment where I thought when he took that pause, and we're just going to – I almost was like, is he going to say kill them? Is he just going to say, demolish them? I thought he was going to go super hard, but he's like, see what happens. And I thought there was this interesting level.
Maybe it was intentional.
Maybe it was intentional. And we're going to see what happens.
I swear to God, we are going to Have the best, just most
Take it one day at a
friendly,
time.
sportsmanlike matchup I think you've ever seen.
Exactly. A little bit of like, there's something underneath this message here.
Okay.
I'm reading the subtext. And it's not friendly. Maybe we should go home. Well, they can't go home. They've got to play head-to-head. And I guess it's better to now than never talk about what are your true expectations for this as we get closer into the maps, picks and bans, this starts to actually happen.
I think a lot of teams are I guess it's okay for right now, but a lot of teams saying, we're not really focused too much on what they want to do because I feel like a lot of people are still finding their identity in this meta, and that's something that I think is fun to talk about with the Premier League is the meta's not super locked down, and it varies a lot from set to set. It's like these guys are playing this matchup, so they're going to try to play this way, and it feels like that's always a boon for the team that is more versatile, flexible, comfortable playing more things than the team that is very focused on like, we're trying to find one thing that we do well right now.
A guy that kind of slips underneath our radar sometimes and hasn't really been highlighted before some of these games, Payan. I think Payan is somebody that could be that head-to-head factor, especially against Shadow. Those two people going against each other in the blaster category, how do you feel that'll be, and what pressure will that put on both teams?
He's a rare breed. Those North American blasters are certainly a rare breed, and it's almost taken like that new rookie class to come in with Shadow and Payan to be able to play a lot of those characters, to be able to like Eevee and bring that out. And for the first time, it's not just Europe that's fighting for the Eevee. It's North America.
Right.
And some of these teams, Random Noob blazed that trail, but now we've got this kind of fresh batch of new blood that can come up and say, okay, well, this is something that we can all do. This is something that we can definitely benefit from having.
And it is going to be against very good players on both sides. Every match should be contested unless some team has pulled out all the stops essentially over this last week of preparing for this one. Ice Mines, it'll be map 1 is most certainly Renegade's pick.
I think you can rest assured there. Splitstone, Ascension Peak, a couple other bands on the side of the Knights, guys getting their spots right. We have a specific order. You're right. Yeah, Shadow's good flow for sure. Pretty hair approved, if you will.
Pretty hair approved.
A lot of guys switching seats. We have a specific order. I don't know if you guys at home noticed, but see if you can figure out what order the players have to sit in. All teams sit in the same order by role. So kind of take a look at these team shots, and first person to tweet me the correct order, I'll do something.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a good one. I was going to take a guess, but I think I know, and we'll see if someone can get at Nick's Twitter fast enough to get that prize. Vapor in the background just waiting patiently and viral, chatting with his teammates. A very charismatic guy, likes to have fun when he is communicating, but sometimes a little silent in the halls. I think he's just more focused than ever because Renegades and Pittsburgh, they both need wins today.
Yeah.
The big conversation, too, around the league has been triple tank, and is that really something that's working, or is it something that only, like we've seen in the past, the best teams like NIP can pull off?
I think it's something, thankfully, that A, only the best teams can pull off.
Okay.
And B, is going to be a bit of a niche strategy. I don't think it's going to be the meta, thank goodness. I much prefer the game, just watching it when there is more damage on the board, when there is squishier players playing, and just more people are dying, more people are getting kills, and it's action. It's fun to watch, and triple tank is not necessarily that. Now that we get closer, though, I think to the midpoint in our split, that's where really these losses, so like this week and next week, are coming up on everyone has played everyone.
Right.
And now at that point, if you are sitting at the bottom, you truly are at the bottom. You're not Space Station at the bottom because you haven't played any games yet. You're at the bottom because you haven't beat anyone yet.
Right, and they both have one win apiece. The first one I would say from Renegades, a little surprising as well. When they were able to get that victory earlier on, it was shocking to a lot of people, and it was one of the more interesting sets. But, of course, it did take some popping off. Hero right there that you're looking at in your screen. You may not know his face because of, well, I guess until previously his anime profile picture. But right now he is really filling a very difficult role, which I consider the hardest role in all of Paladins to fill. It's the aggressive tank because the min-max of those situations, they can rest on a the head of a pin, and they can go either way if you make a mistake.
It's so committal, and if the rest of your team doesn't commit and doesn't do their job, you are still the first person to die, and you still look like you made the mistake.
Right.
So I feel like just internally, you become an easy scapegoat for like if you're watching film back and like this guy died.
Why'd you dive and die right there? Yeah.
Well, that was a plan. That was the play. The play that I'm thinking about is like, think about Diggy Dog on Barrack, just like hard inting, running it down mid, and dome shielding on top of Invocal. on the high ground on Ice Mines. That's
Right.
like very like he's not getting out of that situation unless his team wins that fight, right? So
Definitely.
then you have to say that's a lot of pressure, I think, for that aggro tank to be like, all right, here we go. Hope I'll see you on the other side. Type of
Exactly.
play.
And Hero still, having his journey with the Renegades hasn't really quite proven to be at that level that we've seen some of the other tanks like Phoenix, like even Diggy, who's kind of proven that now. Obviously, when you look at the likes of some of these players that have been doing it forever, and it's hard to compare, and there's still a lot to be improved. In Vocal, though, what are we going to get from him? We first saw that week 1, he looked like the best player in all of Paladins. Week 2, some upset stuff from Renegades, didn't quite get what they needed, and now is it all up in the air? Do you think this is going to be a performance to remember? They are playing some NA players that they're pretty familiar with.
Yeah, I think Invoco does a pretty good job of not being like a diva DPS. Like, I need to have this. He
true.
seems like he's pretty flexible in terms of, I'll play Cassie, I'll play Leon, I'll
True.
play Victor, I'll play whatever it is. If it's got to be a 4 protect 1 comp, I'm cool with that. But at the end of the day, even if it is like these triple tank comps, he is still going to be that guy on the damage. I think that's Shadow that would probably flex to that 3rd tank if the Renegades ever go that far.
Right.
I think it's safe to say, like, even last week, when they played Ice Mines, when Invoca was playing Victor and doing 90% of the team's damage, Shadow was on Xin, and he was playing a very, like, I'm sort of like an off-tank Xin. I'm not really diving much for tank. I'm just trying to, like, hold control of space with all of my survivability and stall cooldowns.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that is hard to find in the stats, but you could see in the actual games if you watch them back. I actually had someone tweet me today that they had watched every single PPL game on YouTube. You were in that tweet as well, and he said, want to know what I do in my free time. That is some commitment right there. So I wanted to shout him out on broadcast because whoever that was, that's great. You've watched just as much Paladins as I have at this point of the PPL, so good on you. Moonchopper just trying to wait for things to get going. You could tell he's got his game face on, man. He's locked and loaded. All smiles earlier on, but he's excited here. Wearing a little Adidas brand. I actually bought that sweatshirt from my older sister.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh,
same
wow.
one.
Small world.
Small sweatshirt.
Moonchopper is a small guy. Or maybe Dave's just a big guy.
It's a little bit of both.
What are your thoughts?
It's a little bit of both. Nick, back to you.
Awesome. So first pick here for the Renegades, Ice Mines. Remember, that's where we are headed as we get into the P's and B's for game numero uno. Renegades will be up with the first ban. Now, our standard start of the set bans have still been Torvald, Makoa, Khan, +1. That is sort of like a fit thing for the set. Grover was it for the first couple of weeks. Geno saw a small amount of bans last week, but look for something that's like an A+, something like a Cassie, something that like maybe a Leon that every team can play, and it's just going to be like a pretty solid thing to get rid of.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. I think that right now we are definitely looking at Khan being a high priority. Hero and G-Bunny both like playing that quite a bit. Also, Damba is very much a comfort selection for both Cuss and Viral. And I think Genos is something that we've seen both of them often kind of go for. I think Grover is going to be the question. How much do these NA teams kind of prioritize Grover? Because I think it's more region specific or just maybe region specific, since we're all in the same land, type of mentality, because the European guys still feel differently about Paladins
let's be
than the
honest.
North American
Absolutely,
guys.
that's a big thing to know. Yes, we are here, but those are old habits. Those are things that have been kind of growing over the past 3 years and are not going to die overnight.
No.
Especially on teams with, like the Knights, all North American, and Renegades with all North American. There is not going to be that Virtus Pro flavor. There's not going to be that Kanga mixing and matching of these metas.
Well, and Vocal and Moonshopper still talking it over here. Renegades have the first pick, and they would mean they would also have the first ban. Makoa has kind of fallen out of dominance as far as being that first pick, first ban, no matter what. We've seen that transition into a couple other champions. In fact, feels like the most, if you let it off the leash, there's a very good chance you might lose to something crazy. Champion is really Torvald in this meta.
100%. I think Torvald, he's probably got to have damn near 100% pick ban rate. And I think it's probably 98% ban, 2% of the time it makes through, but it always gets picked that 2% of the time so far.
Interesting.
So standard. I don't know if the Knights are going to let Khan go, because I think you're right. I think Khan is going to be highly contested between these two, and because he's very good on the point of Ice Mines. He has very easily accessible kill volume off the side of the map, and the Knights will say, you're right. We're not going to let them have that. That's too easy.
So now the priority
You trespass
shifts
and are
towards the
unwanted,
Inara.
stranger.
Interesting, but not bad. Inara is definitely a fine first pick, but wow, nothing like the Knights' first pick
look
here,
how
which
hard
is
you're
an
trying.
early pick.
How
I
embarrassing.
mean, look at last week. Look at what happened.
I can
Tanner's
get us
pip
out
was
of here
incredible.
alive.
It was dominant.
Stay
And we were
close
just
and
like,
follow my lead.
I especially was just like, I think this is a jack of all trades right here. This is a Swiss Army knife. More teams are going to use this next week,
And that's
they
Payan.
have to.
That's Payan's pip as well. So this should be a damage dealing kind of situation. Unless Cuss feels that the triple tank could work. He is known to be able to go for the Mega Potion pip. He almost started it really at the highest of levels.
It's been a while, but I wouldn't be surprised
Kneel.
at this point to see anything dusted
Last
off
one
for the Knights. So
standing
Leon Barrick will
wins.
come through as well. Last week, Barrick saw extremely high prioritization over Inara almost entirely all the time. I mean, first picks we're talking here for the Dwarf, for a character that has been relegated to almost either your 3 DPS tank or your scuffed point tank when they have Inara.
Let's see, Grover gets picked up, so it does look like that will be Cuss, and this will be a Payan pip. So a Catalyst selection.
Give
and
your king a
still
big
no Genos.
hug.
Even to augment with some of the damage, we'll see if Renegades just feel comfortable that they're going to be able to scoop that up later, if they'll be going a different direction. There is still Maldamba available for Viral. A lot of good crowd control, especially against a pretty heavy-hitting team right now in the Knights.
So the Renegades have the question of what blaster do we want to play here? Eevee's not really played on Ice Mines almost ever. It's pretty much just Bomb King Drogos. And then honestly, most blaster players also flex onto Xin. For whatever reason. He's not big AoE damage guy, but that's where most of them will go as like that third or their fourth spot, because not every blaster is viable on every map. They have such violently different kits that they don't all work in the same situation.
I mean, Knights draft right
They
now
just
looks
can't stay
very
away from
good,
me.
and it feels like the amount of space
Tanky.
that they can control, all the big circles and stuns and things in the Knights. I look at Renegades, and the amount of impact they have seems very linear, aside from the Dome Shield. And, of course, the Dread Serpent. Seismic Crash can do a couple of things here, but they're going to have to play that one smart. And I think Shadow and Invoker are going to have big games for this to work.
They're going to have to go very big on their counter engages, whether it be off of the Evil Mojos. They need to have Dread Serpenting almost immediately after that. Whether it be a King Bomb rolling in, they need to be ready to go with a Seismic Crest, Earthen Guard, like absorb as much of that as you can and try and bark back. They have a really, really good suite of counter-engage ultimates.
All right, well, you've seen both lineups here, the Knights and the Renegades, getting ready to go in Game 1 of Day 1 of this week of our PPL. Let's send down to your casters, Dave and Gore, to get things started.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Nick. Coach is walking by outside the window here, and I will say that, I mean, the Renegade booth is feeling good today. I know the interview was kind of funny, joking around a little bit. I caught him off guard a little bit with the workout question, but they're feeling good. I think they're laughing in there. They're communicating. I think they're feeling good coming into today.
And I feel like the same can really be said of the Knights. I mean, Cuss, I think you said the coach saying, 4-2. Cuss is holding up the 4-0 to the camera to make sure he knows how they feel coming into it. Both teams seem to be in that zone, right, where they're comfortable with each other, they're comfortable with the way the game's going to go. And that's the big thing. Both of these teams right now, I mean, again, save for Space Station, who has yet to play their set. They get to play their first one later today. They're at the bottom. I think Knights have 4 maps over the Renegades, but their win-loss is the same. This is going to be a big set for whoever can really come out on top.
Yeah, it's definitely a momentum-building day for both sides. The Knights having a bit of a break coming into this week. They were a week off last week. Renegades coming off, honestly, one of the tougher scheduled weeks we'd seen. You have to go against NIP, you have to go against Virtus Pro. That's a tough back-to-back matchup. This will be one where they look to build some momentum, look to get some things rolling on their side.
And the one thing I'm looking for specifically out of the Knights, but also out of the Renegades, is actually going to be the point control. You can see Dethroner, one of the things they got to learn when they were up against Na'Vi a couple weeks ago was how important controlling the objective is going to be, and being able to get this pressure right here. They're at 93%. They're controlling this. G-Bunny finally gets a kill on the side. They are opening up the door, and now it's just going to be a
That is Queen. That is Queen. I mean, we're here introing the match, and in the meantime, the Knights have gotten up to like 80% on the point. They clean up a couple kills. They kick down the door. They find themselves 1 up early on here in Ice Mines. I mean, did you see anything? I mean, initially there. I mean, it was really. I think you were introing it as they were doing it, but really just point control. I mean, they stuck They stuck the Ash and the Fernando on the point, found a pick, and that's all they needed.
And that's pretty much all they really needed to control. I mean, Fernando, again, it's one of those things I've been saying, like, he's not necessarily the highest tier front line that you're going to grab,
right.
But he still does the front line thing
right.
incredibly
he stands
well.
There and has
His
a shield
is really good, his health is really good, his ult is incredible for that kind of thing, and you can't scoff at his damage. Yes, it's been nerfed from where it was, but that's because he was able to keep up with someone like Bomb King in terms of his damage. Now he's going to keep up with Inara, but being able to force her off of the objective, something that most people have issues with, means that the Knights can just kind of sit there. They can plant themselves, and it's the Renegades' job to make sure they get off.
This is where the Renegades will look to make their stand. Unfortunately, getting caught out a little bit there is Invocal. Shadow on this Xin is in an okay spot. Takes a little bit of chunk damage, gets around the corner, gets himself some healing. But already, with only a minute left in this game, the Knights have pushed this a good distance, and they're just finding pick after pick. We'll have to take a look at the way the slash lines look here, because, yeah, one kill on the side of Renegades right now, and that was on to Payan. They've not been able to find that defensive pressure just as of yet that you've come to expect on Ice Mines. A good Dread Serpent's going to find a few kills. They're going to look to add something on the back end.
They at least get rid of Payan once again. I feel like, and I've been highlighting Pip a lot, but if you get rid of Pip, especially in this kind of scenario, it alleviates so much pressure from the push. 30 seconds left on Ice Mines, and only getting one kill means the Knights should be able to get in, get overtime, and kind of put more pressure on the Renegades, but they're going to wait for Payan. They're going to wait through to see if maybe a big Evil Mojo is going to come in and kind of change the pace of the last portion of this push.
It is ready. 4 ultimates up for the Knights. Only 2. You have the Enlightenment, you have the Dome Shield, but here comes Dethroner. Just throwing out some of that flame here from the Fernando. Once you get under this bridge, this is kind of where you'll expect the fight to start to break out. And Vocal is going very low. He's going to pop the Enlightenment defensively, find some damage. He's going to keep himself alive as well. He cleans up G-Bunny. Overtime starting to tick away, so this is good for the Renegades if they can start to stack some kills on the back end here.
A lot of ults coming down at the very, very end. A Whirlwind used, the King Bomb used, not finding anything, not committing everything, but they're still pushing, still holding as of right now. They've got the healer, they've got some kills, but with the Throner going down, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for the Knights to hold.
Spite cleans up Dethroner. Shadow with a couple there on defense. Payan getting the last kill of the round. That looked really good for the Renegades to start off. A little shaky there in the middle on the back end of that fight. I thought the Knights were going to be able to turn it around. The Renegades find the ultimates, find the kills, and are able to turn that one around. We'll have to take a look at the ultimates as well. So the Evil Mojo's available, but that's something we keep talking about. You get 10 of those around, essentially. So Payan will probably feel free and clear to use that. You have the Immortal as well. He was cleaned up before he could use that on his side. So what do you look at on the side of Renegades that they maybe need to change from the last point fight to get on the offensive push this time?
Well, that looked like a very solid defense from them, but when you look at what they used to get it, 4 out of 5 of their ults, the only one that's about to come back is going to be Viral having that Dread Serpent once again, which is big. It can be game-changing, but not nearly as game-changing as you're going to have as the Assert Dominance. It's an Evil Mojo that gets a couple kills. As an Immortal, that's going to keep someone in the fight that might have been taken out earlier. So honestly, with this, they just need to control the Throner. That's what Na'Vi did. That's what everyone who's kind of been able to keep the Knights down has done. But he's still just dancing around on the objective already, 50%.
You know, I give Fernando a lot of flack, but you see him being a point tank here, and he's doing exactly what he needs to. On the back end of one kill, the Knights could look to get aggressive here. They have the Evil Mojo if they want it. Going toe-to-toe with the Barrack is Payan on this Pip. Just some poke back and forth. He's down. The Rocket Boots, the bowling ball is going to give him a shield that he's actually going to end up falling. And honestly, Gore, that looked the same as the first point.
And you know, I'm going to re-answer the question you asked. What do Renegades need to do to look better coming into that kind of, and into a point fight? And this is going to apply for next round. First, just start touching the point. That's going to be at least the first step in the right direction. Not a single foot touched that objective that entire time.
Is that a clean 100 to 0?
It was going to be maybe contesting for a little bit, but they never got a percentage. They never got rid of Dethroner. And now, unfortunately for them, they're on almost a full wipe.
And it is a full wipe. They clean up Cuss Cutie. So Renegades are on the back foot here. They have the Pip, though. I mean, in a way, you say their healer's gone, but when you have Pip who's throwing some healing out anyway, you know, it's not going to sustain you through a fight, but it will top you off just in case there's a little bit of an engagement before Cuss Cutie's able to come back. But the Knights looking great here, and they have the ultimate advantage as well in Vocal. That's the guy who you need to hit the shots here on defense. He does just that onto Ricotta. So the Bomb King is down at the moment. Payan's getting aggressive, though, and he does end up finding in Vocal. So that's a good play there from the Pip to drop one on the side of Renegades. So now they're on the back foot. They don't have their range defense at the moment, and the Knights could look to push forward.
And then another clean shot, right? Thread the needle and find the support. Get rid of him, get rid of Moonchopper. This is the thing that I think I've said about Renegades every single time that still seems to hold true. This is their map. This is a map that they are usually very good on.
That's true.
But the thing is that we're having Invocal find kills.
Yeah.
That is it. I'm actually pretty sure, I mean, maybe one or two other kills have kind of shred through, but he's going to be the one sitting 7-4. Shadow's picked up a few. Hero has one, but it is almost entirely Invocal, and I'm sure the kills that have been picked up by everyone else have been set up by him. That's the issue I always have with this team, is that they are finding these incredible moments, but it's only when Invocal finds
It's on the back of Invocal.
You need more than that. You need Moonchopper to be able to put his name in there. You need Shadow to have that performance every game. And normally Shadow's putting his name on the list as well, but again, 2 out of 5 isn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even in their losses, Invocal's kind of been the guy that they lean on as well. I mean, it's rare to see him with a bad slash line. Unfortunately, he's going to be the first one to fall here. Moonchopper makes number 2 here for the Renegades, and the Pittsburgh Knights are on a strong offensive push. That's 3 down now for Renegades. Make it 4 and make it 3-1 here for the Knights. And we were talking about it just before this. They cleaned up Invocal to start the fight, and it almost seemed like that was going to be ready.
And it's just being able to open up with one of two things. You either get rid of the support at the beginning of the fight, or in this case, you can get rid of their carry. And whichever case you're going to start that with, it's going to make things a lot easier. If Invocal is dead for the entirety of the fight, that amount of damage that's coming out of Leon, that 88,000, is not impacting you anymore. And he's doing so much, and he's converting it to kills. But like you said, has been seen. No one else on that team is having that kind of impact in it. And the minute Moonchopper gets caught out, which has happened quite a few times as well, it almost feels like it's just been a perpetual 4v5 for Renegades.
Sure. And actually, I mean, going back to the perpetual evil mojo that we've talked about, it's already back up. He used it at the end of the last round, just prior. Not the final point fight, but the one just before. And here it is. It's going to get used on a Moonchopper. Unfortunately, he walks right into his death there, and the Knights still have 4 ultimates to use. Make it 2 here for Payan. He's streaking now on this Pip, and he is rolling. 21%, goes to 24, and the Knights now can zone with 3 ultimates and with a numbers advantage.
And with the way things are going, Shadow might be able to get out of there. There's going to be a good seismic crash and at least some return damage, but it's not controlling enough. There's going to be an assert dominance. They're staying safe. They're staying alive. The King Bomb gets canceled, and he just walks out alive anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they use it 87% here. It's going to be tough for the Renegades to retake. They have the spite, but that's not huge. They do get the touch, though. So overtime at least will be in their favor if they need it. Dethroner goes down, and that's kind of been the key that we've talked about. If the Knights have Dethroner, it's really hard for the Renegades to retake these points, and now the Knights are actually the ones on the back foot here, so the Renegades get to try their hand at a zone.
And they have the fast gap. They can capture this point a lot faster. You can see that gap closing incredibly quickly on the top. That 99% is a big number, though. You cannot leave the objective if you are Renegades, and this assert dominance is going to put some pressure onto him. Moonchopper is the one who gets stunned out.
He gets stunned, and Invocal again is the first one to get cleaned up in this fight, followed by Shadow. Those are 2 carries down now on the side of Renegades. It's going to start snowballing in the wrong direction if you're on the blue side of things here. Ricotta's going to clean up the Damba just shortly here. Down he goes. Moonchopper does end up finding one, but it looks like the Knights are clean and free in the clear to take map number 1, 4-1. Invocal could get a touch, but he was riding towards certain doom there towards the end, and wow, the Knights started hot today.
And they did exactly the same thing. And I want to actually kind of echo something Phoenix said a couple of weeks ago. When it was Renegades, in terms of fights, they always looked like they were coming out on top, but they never won an objective against Na'Vi. And the question was, why is that happening? And it was very, very simply, we're playing the objective.
Right.
We're playing on the point. We're playing the push. They are playing the fights. They're getting the kills, but they're not doing anything with it. And that's what I need to see them change.
Well, the Knights found the advantage, and they did everything with it. They find a 1-0 lead here in set number 1 of the day. Let's send it back to Evan and Nick to break it down.
Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, Gore said it best. That's what he needs to see them change. Coach Gore got mad at you. I don't want to disappoint him. If I were you, I would kind of listen to the
Don't make me
advice.
take your back sword to Gore now. I don't want to do it.
Gore's waiting out there. You want the belt from Gore? No, I don't think so. All right. So I think at the end of the day, though, he says a really good point, and it's objective fighting, and it's also objective drafting. The way that they drafted their composition, it looked lackluster when you looked at the big, beefy presences of the Grover, the Bomb King, the Ash. I mean, the Pip. It was very hard for Renegades to do this.
Yeah, you look at the amount of healing as well coming out of that Pip, that 17,000. It's roughly, we'll say 15 heals from Pip, and that's potentially 15 lives that he saved, you know what I mean?
Yep.
None of that healing counts for healing that he did to himself.
Right.
That's all stuff that's potentially saving the lives of teammates, and when you've already got a team that is very tanky and can stay alive, you're looking at even for Formidable Fernando, right? There's a lot of self-sustain happening on this team, making it very hard for the Renegades to be able to get kills.
The issue is when you look at DPS characters like Bomb, they contribute to the overall fight happening on the point. You see here, Payne was able to do so much, not just with his ultimate to swing the tide of the fight, but BK with a Grumpy Bomb could just inherently pressure Moonchopper in a way that wasn't happening to the Throner. And I think if you have Ricotta being able to flex to that damage flex on the BK, you have a whole different dynamic you can bring into your lineup. That's obviously what we're looking at with Pittsburgh Knights dominating Game 1 here. But Game 2 could be a different story, but it is Pittsburgh's map.
Hopefully.
So how do you feel about that?
I think that's a little bit scary, right? Ice Mines is definitely in that territory, and we say this every week now, where so many people have played it to where now there are eyes on Ice Mines. It's almost all eyes on Ice Mines to figure out, like, oh my goodness, we're going to go here every set.
Yeah.
How do we play this correctly now? How do we actually develop strategies that are Ice Mines specific? You're seeing giraffes that are like designed just to win that point.
Sure.
Which is kind of like the safe way to do it. You don't have to get the push. Sometimes you do.
Right.
But you don't have to because you have a draft that is just designed to win the point every single round.
One of the keys that I keep seeing, and it's been a feeling, and I guess the strong articulation of it on where it switched is something that I'm still missing. I'm trying to find as I watch more of these games. But the drafting for Renegades has shifted away from really putting Invocal and Shadow in great ways to take over the game. And maybe it's less Shadow on Eevee. Maybe it's less maps that allow Eevee to be showcased and flex that variety that he brought to their champion pool. Maybe it's less Invocal on these hard carries of these Kinesses. I've seen him on the Leons and the Victors many times, and it just hasn't brought the same level that maybe some of his Cassies have, and maybe, again, some of those more unique hit scans that he operates so well.
In my opinion, we might be getting to the point where these teams are getting too good for it to be a one-man show. I don't think it's very hard for a guy to just have a one-man performance in a team game like this with so many different characters that do so many different things. It almost has to be that full team effort. That's why, like, last year when Na'Vi at the World Championship had a game where Mutu was like 0-8, that like blew my mind that they were still able to win that game. Because if all 5 guys truly don't show up, it's going to be really hard to get a win.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, is I guess what you could look at in that draft, Nick, is space created. I think with the Inara and with the Fernando on Ice Mines, aside from from the Barrack, and then you look at the ability for Pittsburgh to play out from their front lines pressure that they've created.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a lot more in sway of Pittsburgh. Stonekeep here is a very important thing for that same dynamic. If your tanks create a lot of space for you to play on the Cathedral without any pressure, this is going to be done and dusted.
There's a lot of cool ways to do it too. With Inara and with Barrack, it takes guts. It takes bravery, really. It does. There's a game from Worlds where we were talking about Envy and the way they used Inara like an aggro tank on Stone Keep and just had her Earthen Guard and W key over the high ground and just see what they did about it. So you don't have to be super conventional. As we do see a small switch up in the bans coming through here. Ruckus will take a seat and Khan will be allowed through first.
And also interesting to see Ruckus wasn't picked or banned in the last game as well for either of the teams. So kind of ignored a champion that's been pretty instrumental in a lot of NIP success and some of the top teams we've seen, especially Virtus Pro, utilizing Ruckus quite often with Pule. The Knights here with the first pick Khan, that's G-Bunny territory, and Renegades now with a plethora of things to go to. It's
and
going to be the Inara
unwanted,
again,
stranger.
so kind of consistent
Don't
with
worry,
them. The first pick Inara, but
After
the bomb
a few
kick.
good lashes, you'll all see it my
so Genos
way.
in the first map is also something that I want to note, and it might stay the same here with Ruckus taking a seat. He's like kind of like a really good off tank for 3 DPS because he plays like a DPS. A lot of what he looks to do is similar to like what a flanker would be looking to do.
Right.
But the Genos is going to get picked up here. They do have the Pip and the Khan already behind it.
I mean, I think Invoker would probably look to have At this point, a Leon again. But there's a couple of spicy picks that could really throw it. I mean, if you see the Zen, you see the Victor in the champion role, maybe it's just the fact that Renegades are becoming a little bit more predictable. I like that they're saving that damage pick towards the end. I think this opens up a potential Knessa if they really want to do it.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's a good point for sure. With Cassie banned out, the top two hit scan player champions right now are the Leon and the Cassie. And with Cassie banned out, letting the Knights just get Leon puts you in a spot where it's like, all right, what is Invoco going to play? Is it going to be like a Zen? Is it going to be a Knessa? And the Knights, I don't know. I'm not super comfortable picking Knessa into this because Pip can really just dive on you. We saw Tenor doing that last week. And it's really up to the Knights.
But he's got a big head,
afraid to do that.
He's got a big head, and that's a big, hurt box.
Big dome.
It really is easy to headshot him, and they're gonna the Shaolin. Decent 1v1 matchups against some of these characters, but absolutely devastated by the explosive flask if that actually does come
Your
through.
sight fails you.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Hasn't really worked for me personally. I'm not super convinced by it.
Me neither.
I think there's definitely some light there. The amount of bursts you can hit in just the one arrow when you have Luminary on your team, which he doesn't right now. It's definitely tough, though, with the amount of mobility that a Genos comp allows you to have. They can just kind of move around. I don't know. It's very tough to stand still in these PPL games. That's as simply as I can put it.
Last pick for Knights getting the Barrack, which has been prioritized as first picks for NIP. We've seen Renegades go to Inara 2 times in a row. Do you feel confident Renegades can bounce back here?
Not really, no. I think the Knights are hitting them with a different enough composition to where they didn't learn how to beat the Knights doing this in game number 1.
So it's going to be challenging. Will the Shaolin be all the difference? We haven't seen maybe the man with the bow.
Also, it's the Knights map. I think we're
nice
pretty
map
damn. We haven't confirmed it, but we're pretty damn sure at this point that
Yeah.
Ice Mines was the Renegades pick and that the Knights have selected Stone Keep.
Well, can the Desert Wind maybe apply a bit of a gust in the right direction towards Renegades? We'll have to see as we head down to Stone Keep.
Onward to game 2 and onward to Stone Keep we go. And Gore, one thing I think I kind of noticed looking at the Pittsburgh Knights lineup, it is distinctly kind of a Na'Vi looking, or an NIP looking lineup they have going over there. They get the Pip, they get the Barrack as well as a Genos. I think these guys have been watching some film and seeing what works.
And that's the thing. I think looking at, especially for a team like the Knights, they're in a growth period where they absolutely can learn what they need to be one of the top contenders. I've been saying it all the time. Like the top 6, 7, maybe all 8 teams are going to be contending, but from what we've seen out of Renegades, like they haven't quite hit that stride yet, right? They're still trying to play their game, and unfortunately for them, it means they're getting locked down in moments like this.
Yeah, and Vocal, that's a tough start there for him, and as we saw last game, Dethroner will be happy just to plant his butt on the point and start gaining some percentage points for him. 51%. Payan falls as well. So Payan down. That's the Pip. So the Renegades now have some space, and this is where you need to see Renegades make a big move. You have a man advantage. Pip is still out of the fight for another 5 or so seconds, and they do just that. So they finally retake. They get the point, and now they can bring out a zone. And now you rely on Shadow and the Shaolin to find some of that range damage. Ooh, but it doesn't help when you're getting picked off by Ricotta, one of the tried and true Leon players for sure.
And you just got to be very careful about this. And actually, I'm going to change back one of the things I had said about Renegades earlier. I was saying everyone needs to step up. I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe lean on Invocal even more, but that means that they have to 4 protect one. Like this has to be a Mr. President get down. Like this has to be make sure he stays alive. No matter what the scenario is, you have to make sure his presence is going to be felt, and he's in a comfortable position on a comfortable champion. Because right now he's your success. He is where you're winning. Shadow is playing well, but it's not well enough. He gets taken down there first, and now you have everyone kind of locked away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that was just such good pressure from the Knights, and it looked like the Renegades were almost just fighting separately in a way. I mean, it wasn't so much probably a lack of communication or coordination on the Renegades' part, but the Knights just came back, and it's almost like scare the Renegades into backing off, and there were a bunch of individual picks that happened. Same thing we saw in Ice Mines as well.
And it's actually something that I feel like, again, I'm seeing Knights mimic that we've seen in other top teams, in NIP, in Na'Vi, in Envy, and it's knowing when to back off. Knowing when to stay aggressive, when to kind of maybe even push foot to throat and get even more aggressive, and when to say, you know what, this isn't worth fighting for right now. We have an advantage. Let's not lose it because we want to hold on to it. And that's what they did. They say, you know what? We're at 70, 80% on the point. They're coming in to fight. It's going to cause some trouble for us if we take this as a 4v5. Let's just go sit back in the keep for a little bit, hold our own ground. Don't fall back so far that they can take over. And then once everyone's respawned, we just move right back in.
Right. And it helps you find some space when Cuss Cutie's finding some through time and space snipes, and G-Bunny is starting off the fight with some kills as well, and the Renegades are firmly pushed back into their base here. Cuss Cutie finds his second of this fight, and that's all they needed. The Knights push it in just like that. There's a through time and space that gets used, and that is literally it. Ricardo is still bringing back his enlightenment from just prior. Renegades don't spend anything either, so they have all 5. But this is eerily similar to what we saw at Game 1, Gore, in that Shadow has 2 kills, and that's essentially it. I mean, Invocal had some there on Ice Mines as well. But they're not able to find the kills right now.
And you know, this is going to be a very bizarre comparison because I've actually never thought of it this way before. But the end push from kind of the arch to the base for this payload and the arch to the base in Ice Mines, pretty similar overall.
Sure.
Like, you're going to have a team come
That's
out.
fair.
In this case, they actually get the high ground for Renegades, but you're going to be fighting up. You're fighting constantly against them. And so what I feel like we saw Knights learn towards the latter half of the Ice Mines map is still going to apply here, not only in draft, but also in the way that they're playing the push.
They're playing the push well, but who are playing the point fights well here are the Renegades. The Heat Haze is going to come out for Invocal. He's going to find some damage, but not find any kills. Moonchopper drops, as well as the Damba, and as well as Shadow. God, and the Knights are just firing on all cylinders right now.
Yikes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly,
actually, all I can say about that, like,
they look
sloppy
really
fight.
good right now. They find, and this is kind of, I think, catering to the point that you just made, in that they know when to go. They find some damage, and you can tell they find some damage, and they're like, all right, we can convert this damage into a kill, which then rolls into a full fight win if we go now. The Evil Mojo is going to get countered out by the Seismic Crash, so a bit of a nice play there from the side of Renegades, but Shadow stays alive.
But that was really good. They get rid of Pan, they get rid of G-Bunny, they use their ults in combo, essentially to lock Pan out. Pan had no chance to get himself a heal. The Evil Mojo came out into a CC immune to Anara, so he wasn't able to polymorph her, get that kill they needed. And again, fast cap, but this time with a much better zone, and 2 kills means the Renegades can actually take this one away.
Yeah, and honestly, there was a bit of a flip from what we saw from the Knights. The Renegades just saw a little bit of an advantage. They knew when to reach out and take it. Unfortunately, the Knights now are back on the offensive push. Moonchopper, so it's a bit of a checkerboard kill feed right now. Red and blue coming up on both sides. Both teams just kind of poking at each other back and forth, but the important thing is that the payload has not really moved at all with about 2 minutes left. But it looks like the Knights are going to elect to back off a little bit, regroup, and prepare for the Renegades push. And this is not something we've really been able to see too much in this series up to this point, is the Renegades on an offensive push. They have a pretty decent team comp, I think, to potentially push this one through.
And this is actually the best time to be able to kind of catch the Knights off guard. You can lock them down. They aren't used to defending against you as of right now, so you are in a unique position to get aggressive, to make them feel uncomfortable, and kind of keep that press through. Unfortunately, their Moonchopper saves Invocal, which is good.
That was almost a turnaround.
I was going to say, Invocal missing a few key shots, those kind of moments like that, you can't have that happen in those clutch situations.
Ricotta on the Leon this time. He's going to drop Shadow as well. Here's the man Dethroner. He's been playing this Barrack so well. He had the Fernando game 1. He's on the Barrack now. But honestly, you can tell a guy like Dethroner how much confidence he has in his teammates, in that time after time, he essentially plants himself on the point, or plants himself here in one of these big choke points, and knows that the rest of his team is going to be behind him and supporting him through some of these fights. And I think that's huge. You have to be able to have that. Moonchopper is going to get yeeted off the map there by the overpower. Pan's going to find one as well onto Invocal. Shadow's now on the back foot. Can they find some kills though? Ricotta with 2, Pan with 1 as well. And the Knights with a calculated fight clean up 4 from Renegades. And now they're back in their base with 40 seconds left.
And looking at that point tank conversation, like specifically for Dethroner, but also when it comes down to anybody playing point tank, the one thing that they have not only is the trust in their team, but specifically trust in your support.
Yeah.
There is nothing worse in the game than standing on the point, because everyone's looking at you. They are going to try to kill you because you are an easy open target. You are going to be like the easiest pick that they could have ever had.
Right.
Unless your support's really good behind you. And that's the one thing they have going on for them right here, Knights. Genos, his healing, the change that it had has made him, one, more effective. But also having the pit behind you, having to know that Pan in those moments where he doesn't need it for his 1v1, is going to be able to top you off just as much as giving them that little bit of a leg up.
Chopper looking to get a leg up for his team in this case. Pan unfortunately drops Invocal at the start of this fight, and that normally spells doom here for Renegades. Their main carry going down. Pan's got to be careful though, so Shadow answers back. That's a bit of a 1-for-1. Actually kind of flipping on its head right now. Renegades starting to take this fight, but the Enlightenment is good for a couple. Rakata trying to flip this one around. Moonchopper as well. Now it's just the two tanks essentially in this fight, trying to go toe-to-toe. There's no healing coming out for both sides. This is just going to be a stall essentially, but overtime's ticking away. Oh, Moonchopper falls on the end of that fight. And that unfortunately is going to mean overtime goes away for them. The team just didn't get back in time.
There are two things I think that are important to point out. And the first one is the Throner has not died. That is an impressive feat.
It's a 2-0-11 Barrack, yeah.
But being able to live through all that is impressive. And the other thing is the control the Renegades have over that. Even if they get that point, even if they use some of the ults towards the end of that round, you're looking at them potentially coming in to a fresh round 2-2 where you are not in any way, shape, or form able to take a lead or any control because you don't have your ults ready. Now they're coming into this. They have the assert dominance still, which is at least going to buy them time. As long as they land on the objective, as long as you are putting on pressure, Moonchopper can at least buy them time. But with a Dread Serpent, with a King Bomb, with Hero having the Seismic Crash, they can do exactly what they did to win the fight last round.
Here's the through time and space, and that is exactly what we saw from Cuss Cutie at the start of last round as well. He's not able to find any picks, so Renegades sniffing that one out. They now have 5 ultimates ready. The Enlightenment, the Overpower is still down. The Dread Serpent is going to be good for a couple fears, but there's not really any follow-up damage on the back end of it. The banner is going to come down. It's going to stun up Pan. If he can get this kill, that's big. Oh, but the nice heal there from Pan, and the King Bomb is going to be good for 2. So Shadow flipping this fight around, and the Renegades have fast cap as well as being on the point with a couple kills in their back pocket. 58% here for them, and the ultimates pay off big.
And that ends up working out just because it's stun into stun.
Right.
Too much damage to really look for, but you have to look at this 93%. Dethroner should be able to touch down. No, he doesn't even dash forward with it. I think Cuss was going for the touch, didn't quite make it, but unfortunately for them, that means they lose that, and they start losing this fight. They lose 2 kills immediately.
Yeah, the kill's starting to roll back in the opposite direction. 2 for 2 at the moment. Hero's going to drop G-Bunny. Pan's going to drop Shadow. And now this is what we saw again in the end of last round with kills going back and forth. Hero with a couple in this fight for himself. Moonchopper manages to stay alive with 67 health in this one. So well played there from Moonchopper. And the Renegades get off to a much better start here on this offensive push than what we saw in the last round. They really didn't get the payload moving for another 30 seconds if this were the last round. So much better start here from the Renegades. What do you think they need to do to get this one converted?
This is the aggression they need. Like, I think Shadow is right now the one that's kind of giving them a lot of room. I feel like we talk about Invocal a lot. It's normally when he's on like those hit scan champions if he's playing something like Leon.
Nice.
But right here, this Shaolin not bringing as much to the table, right? It's got the consistent damage, but he's not cleaning up the kills. It's coming on the backs of Moonchopper and Shadow, and that's the kind of switch you need to see. But you have to keep them alive. You have to protect them and make sure they're still in that position.
Moonchopper having a much better second half to this game than he had there on Ice Mine, so looking a lot better. 88%, 89 and climbing on the assert dominance, so likely that'll be up here at the end of this fight, but it's how much do we want to invest to try to get this one pushed through. Unfortunately, a couple kills coming up blue is going to stall out this push. They have a minute left, so what they're going to look to do now is just regroup on the backside without losing too many more stutters, and this becomes a lot harder for the Renegades.
Rakata just has such good aim. I feel like that's one of the things, like, it always comes down to there's quite a few players in the league that do, but every now and then you get that moment where you've watched them hit like 10 shots they just should not connect with.
Right.
And you're just like, okay, you know what, it has to be acknowledged at this point. And that's why it's such a big fight between, you know, who's going to get maybe the Leon, who's going to be feeling comfortable with their hit scan player, and maybe he's going to get locked into a corner like that with an Ashe. Rakata goes down, but still like leaves a ton of damage on the table. Like Moonchopper has to stay out of the fight for a little bit longer now because of that.
Well, the kills go red and blue, but the important thing to look at is that the Damba was one of the kills on the side, or one of the deaths on the side of Renegades. So that stalled out their push a little bit more than it did on the side of the Knights. The Barrack Dethroner is down at the moment. 5 seconds left. This is exactly what we saw at the end of last round as well. The push stopped here. One death was enough to stall out this push on Moonchopper. So how are they going to play it? They have 5 ultimates up for both teams. A couple kills, one for another here. And Rakata, the man on the Leon, up top here with the range, is going to look to get this fight started. But defended successfully here. That was just dethroner pressure, seemingly.
Yeah.
He found a kill and then just pushed the Renegades away.
And it's a good amount of dance back and forth. It actually looked like a fight that Renegades should be able to control it. This is actually where I think some of the issues come in. It's highlighting Pan because when he is on fire, this is the performance you get. Actually, could have ended up being another kill right there if he hadn't had to reload, right? But when he dies, which so far has been happening a little bit earlier every round, everything falls apart. The Knights just can't hold on. They can't keep up. This Evil Mojo needs to be big, and I think he needs to stay alive for at least, I want to say at least 30 seconds, like just enough to be able to help kill off Shadow or Invocal. And then if he dies, it doesn't matter. He's going to be able to respawn, come back in, but he needs to be impactful for that first kill.
Yeah, and looking at the items, the Knights, at least Resilience 1 for everyone on the side of the Knights. So those Seismic Crashes, the King Bombs, the Dread Serpents, the Assert Dominance for the Ultimates are going to be a little less effective. He gets double stun there as Pan, so a good start here from the Renegades, but some kills now coming up. G-Bunny is able to find one, and Vocal's looking for Dethroner here. The overpower is going to be good onto the Damba, and that's kind of the direction you're looking. Viral's going to go flying. Ooh, the Slither nearly making its way back, but just a little bit short. But what's important to look at here, the Renegades are still somehow the ones who are on the point here. G-Bunny's going to fall. Ricotta now helping retake for the Knights, so now they're the ones on the point, and the Renegades are the ones who have to retake.
And with 1 point deficit here for Renegades, they are going to be capturing at 4% every other tick. So it alternates between 4 and 3 for their capture rate. And because of that, it's going to take them a little less time than the Knights standing on the objective. But you have to be prepared for that. Unfortunately for Pan, he gets stunned out. Not going to kill him off just yet. But that's going to be a big play if he stays alive and they get the kill.
He does end up getting one of the kills on the back end, but he falls as a result as well. And Vocal starting to come alive at the end of this fight here. Moonchopper is now in the face of G-Bunny. This con is getting dangerously low. Overtime ticking away. You cannot step off it for even a moment. The Renegades have found themselves a team fight win, and they're going to find themselves back on the point and likely tied up here if the Knights are not able to get a touch.
And honestly, that is the exact moment. Someone has to jump down. Someone has to be able to get there. And Vocal and Payan going into the boxing match, but it's just too late. They get the kills they need, but they don't have the presence on the point. And again, that actually, I'm going to say, is Renegades playing that appropriately. At the very end of this fight, they are not even intentionally staggering people out, but it's like 1 kill here, 1 kill here. And as they moved closer, they just picked off individual members of the Knights, which made it a lot easier once they had control of the point to just say, cool, if you're going to fight us, you have to fight us as one member at a time.
And maybe some timing left there from the Renegades. I mean, I think if that point were any less captured, the Knights were really on the front foot. They had found 2 kills at the start of that retake attempt, but just a little bit too late. But that point doesn't matter. Now it's actually the Renegades pushing for the win. The Knights have no point to gain here. They just need to stall this one out in order to keep this map going. Both teams using a lot of their ultimates, but look, you have the Seismic Crash. The King Bomb's going to be up soon. You have Dread Serpent. You have Heat Haze. You have Assert Dominance. On the other side, you assume the Evil Mojo will come back up, but Overpower's still a little bit away. That'll come up before the end of the round, but depending on how long it lasts, you might not have time.
I mean, this Heat Haze can make a big difference. That's going to be the shot they need. They get rid of Ricotta. They're going to get rid of Cuss. That's opening the door. Renegades could push this in because they still have a couple of huge ults in the arsenal, but it's going to be how hard does this Seismic Crash hit and how much pressure can they keep going.
Dethroner finds a couple before he goes down. That's a good value trade there for him. But you got to be careful if you're on the side of Renegades. Remember, the Knights are essentially respawning right back into the fight, and that's exactly what's happened here. They still have a minute left. I mean, a lot of action was happening there. It seemed like the round was about to end, but there's still plenty of time. But the Renegades used almost everything to start off that last fight, Gore, and the Knights now have 4 ultimates, almost 5 up on their side.
And being able to kind of approach this fight, this is going to be the Seismic Crash. That should be a kill on the Pain and the Throner, and that's going to open up the door. Overpowered comes through, but you have to stop the push.
Yeah, the push stalls out a little bit. G-Bunny finds one with the Overpower. The Seismic Crash is good for a couple. You have to get in there and get a contest if you're G-Bunny. He gets in. The Commander's grab is short, and Vocal finds a kill, and the Renegades feeling good after a Game 2 win.
And they had changed things up, and actually, based on the start of this, it looks like it's going to be very heavily in the Knights, but that is adaptation and learning throughout the game from the Renegades, recognizing this is where the issue has been. They start putting a lot more pressure onto the Throner. They start causing a lot more trouble. I mean, Pan, during those last, like, I want to say even 3 point fights, just almost instantly dead every single time. They're looking at the Pip, they're killing the Pip. They see the Pip, he's dead, like, not letting him live long enough to get an ult off.
Yeah, and the Renegades really just learning, I think, from their mistakes in the last game and looked actually very strong and very convincing. They take game number 2 here in our first set of the day. Let's send it back to Evan and Nick to talk about it.
Well, thanks, guys. It was quite astounding to see the adjustment just after game 1.
Back and forth.
Both teams giving each other haymaker knockout hits on their own maps.
Still, like, winning after being down 2-0 too definitely shows some resilience there from the Renegades, and the adjustments there in that final team fight show that they just kind of had it figured out. That was an explosive victory from them.
Truly.
Ton of damage from the Inara and the Moon Chopper, right? So we're getting these tanks involved on the side of the Renegades.
And I think it was just a great performance to make things work when they weren't necessarily working on paper. I mean, G-Bunny, 16-8, he had his way with the way Khan was able to manipulate around the strap, but everyone else, look how scrappy it was.
Yeah.
15-11, that's probably the best slash line for a damage dealer. Everyone else is
all the damage dealers
15
died.
and 14. I mean,
So
the
much.
amount of deaths here, it felt like everyone was taking a lot of aggressive risks, trying to make those big plays, and it just ended up tilting the way of Renegades.
Yeah, 20+ deaths for both sides of the DPS there. A little explosive arrow Flava Flav. I think I liked what I saw. Maybe a little bit of what this leads into is there was a lot of, you know, auxiliary healing for the Knights, right? I saw a battle shout because of Moxie, even while cauterized, still heal Pip for 1,200 at one point in this game.
Yeah.
So that's something that gives you a lot of confidence right early on and changes the way I think you play. And if you don't adjust to cauterize and things like that coming online later and you dying a little bit quicker and that burst healing not being quite as impactful, I think that might be a little bit what led to the 15 deaths from Payne's Pip.
What was the big difference here, though? Was it the Pip? Was it misplays? Was it Renegades doing something that they need to continue?
It felt like the Knights were winning that game until they weren't. Like Renegades, they come in, they win a take-back fight, get the point, and then an explosive, almost one-and-done team fight on the push to get it through. I think they weren't accounting the Knights for that double kill off the seismic crash, and then they just did not have enough to stabilize and save that. G-Bunny did his best. He threw somebody off with overpower. He battle shouted, used all of his shield from the high ground until the last second he had to dive onto the point. He really gave it all his had, but again, it was just a fight won too hard by the Renegades.
Oh, I'm excited. Shattered Desert. This is a fun map as well. Looks like we're going to have a lot of fun maps today because, I mean, all that's left is Timber Mill and Frozen Garden and Splitstone Quarry and Shattered Desert. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Makoa, Cassie Ban, adjustment is the Leon from the Knights. They take her away this time around instead of taking them for themselves. It opens up the con, which they'll grab.
And I wonder if they're just trying to put more and more pressure onto Invocal at this point. He played Shaolin last time. If they take that away from him, Leon and Cassie are already banned out, so it could be
you gotta take BK
an
here.
interesting spot. I think to be fair, Leon and Cassie are both pretty good on this map because it is just kind of a wide open, not sniper map, but like a good mid-ranger map where you're poking out very, very effectively at almost any point on Shattered Desert.
You know, Nick, it's interesting you mentioned that because I actually think snipers can succeed pretty well on this map. I think they can kind of play by themselves, lone wolf a little bit because of how mobile everyone is on the map. There's not really a true front line and back line in the way these fights are played. So you can find these angles and get back to your team easier than if it was just my side, your side, I think. If you're willing to play that aggressive. I think the ruckus is big here. Renegades finally prioritizing the barrack. And now the Knights, if I were them, I think Bomb King's been pretty big in this set for both teams.
It is, and I think it's one of the only blasters that really works on this map. Drogos is a little bit vulnerable up in the skies here. We haven't seen anybody really play him super effectively. Eevee could be a thing here on this set for sure. But
that's true.
At the moment, Renegades don't have anything picked to where you're saying, Eevee's the play into this.
No, I think Pip is something that Knights would traditionally go back to, and they will.
Do they need to take it this early, though? Are the Renegades going to take Pip at any point?
I think Shadow has a history of playing Pip, but they haven't shown a propensity to pick him. This is the exact same lineup, Nick, to your credit, what you're saying. They've basically repeated the process of last draft.
Pretty much.
Aside from the Leon, which they can't take now in their final phase.
But the core of this con Pip Genos is definitely still there, is definitely still strong, and they've got their damage. They've got auxiliary burst healing on 2 other targets other than Genos. So his weaknesses are essentially covered in that, right? Now, the healer for the Renegades, Rover, is still up and available, but Damba seems to have been the preference for Viral today, and he will stick with that here.
My journey leads me to battle.
They're going to run back to Shaolin.
So be it.
This could flex to either. Invocal, or Shadow can play shot lane.
I was once
So
thrown
Knight's
to
going to have
the
to show their
wolves.
hand a little bit more.
Now
I don't expect a triple
lead the
DPS. Most likely going to be an
I
Inara,
can get us
but it's
out of
actually
here
an Ashe.
alive.
So
Stay
two aggressive
close
front
and
lines.
follow my
like
lead.
it.
A lot of dive here. How do Renegades best deal with this?
I don't really know. They feel like they're a little bit picked out right now. Does it have to be something like an Eevee? I don't think Eevee would be great in
I
this.
like this.
Welcome to the
They're gonna
main
do it.
streets,
I
kitten.
like this.
They're going to grab the Maeve, a character that's not really around too often, but I would definitely be open to coming back.
I think with their aggressive all-in style, it's going to be tough to chase her down, man. She's going to be able to outrun every single person in this lobby. And Knights don't have that same level of let's hold the point, let's just stand here, a million resets, shields for the team, etc. Like Barrack does. Ashe is the closest thing, but typically, I don't know. This is
She's
interesting.
good against both those front lines. Like Khan, he can't get behind his shield to buy time for a battle shout or something like that.
Yeah.
Ashe, she can't show. It doesn't matter how much damage reduction she has. If she's below the threshold, and we're speaking in reference to Street Justice for those of you that may not be wholly aware, that's really the only talent that's played competitively right now. When the target falls below 35% health, you'll see a little like skull indicator on them. That means if Maeve hits them with a pounce, they're going to die instantaneously, no questions asked. So it is good against those frontliners that rely on things like shields because pounce goes through them.
Very excited to see how this works out. I think there's a big question mark. Renegades doing something different. Pittsburgh tied up, trying to take the lead again as we head to the Shattered Desert.
Knotted up at ones going into the desert. In Gore, we see Maeve #1 in the PPL. How do you feel about it?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think Renegades are the one team that has run her pretty successfully in the past. What I really want to see is Moonchopper flex over, like have Shadow take over one of the front lines and have Moonchopper flex over to it. But I doubt that's going to happen, and of course it's not. Moonchopper's going to be playing the Ruckus and Vocal picking up the Maeve. But I think she brings something to the table that a lot of people aren't prepared for, and that is that execute.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that's kind of, if you really look at it, it's easy to underestimate that. I mean, 35% is, I mean, it's 15% under half health, but that's still a good chunk of health to have for an instant execute. I mean, if you can play around that Street Justice execute well, you get a lot of free kills on your plate.
I think the downside is going to be, again, being able to potentially find some more healing because of Pan. But again, if they just lock Pan down on the pip, they're not going to have any issues. I think Knights have a very solid draft for this map, but I don't think they were prepared for the main.
I don't think they were, and it's actually interesting. Invocal has gotten exclusively kills and assists just with his daggers right now. He hasn't actually found any pounce kills yet, but playing it very well up to this point.
I mean, being able to use this, actually looking at Scar Tissue specifically, that was a card that was very big on Maeve when she was very big in the meta. And it's just, I'm going to be able to take an extra shot now because I have 25% damage reduction when I get aggressive. Unfortunately for him there, you have to be able to do what you can with that extra shot. You have to hit it to be able to find it, and that is 99% for Renegades, but also a big spill.
Yeah, unfortunately, this one's now flipped on its head. The Renegades on the back foot, Ricotta with a few. Despite all of them dying except for G-Bunny to start off, they've now come back to life. Pan with 3, Ricotta with 3 as well. Pretty geometric-looking slash lines over there on the side of Renegades as well. Vocal with some presence. But now they're the ones who have to retake here. They have 99%. Pittsburgh Knights with 93 and climbing. And this team fight's going to be the one that ends up deciding who goes up 1-0 here, Gore.
And it's going to be the aggression. Pan loses his life almost immediately. Midnight comes out, makes it dark for everybody, and now Dethroner's going to be taken off the line. That's going to open up this point easily for Renegades.
I can't see anything. I can't find any kills. And Vocal with 1, Shadow with some. The Midnight being the big bit of utility, and the Renegades off to a wonderful start here. And honestly, outside of that clean team wipe they faced when the Knights came back, the Renegades have looked almost flawless in this game so far.
And they've made the exact changes that were like the issues in Game 1, right? Game 1, they're not touching the point, they're not focusing on the objective, they're not killing off the high priority targets. Like, it felt very sloppy. And part of that is that Ice Mines kind of isolates you. If you don't get there immediately, you're kind of locked down. Here, they're making sure to get rid of Pan very early on. They're making sure that he's shut down very often. And Ricotta is a threat, but they're kind of keeping him isolated and locked down somewhere else while they take care of G-Bunny, while they take care of Dethroner. They've changed their priorities, and it's worked out wonderfully.
And they're playing their team comp so well here. I mean, they bait out the assert dominance that falls a little bit flat, a little bit reactionary on that one. They elect just to back off. They use the Hexafire as well. That found a kill. Moonchopper died on the back end of it. They're just going to have to use the overpower in order to clean up Shadow here and buy themselves some time. But with a minute and a half left, And this is kind of what we've seen on Shattered Desert Gore, where it's kind of a sneaky run back to the payload there. I mean, it all seems close, but coming out of your base is actually a little bit longer than I think people expect.
It's longer than you expect, and the one thing about defending on this map is there's also like 4 different avenues that you have to watch. Like, that's the thing that's also really confusing.
Choose a door.
Renegades can kind of choose, you know what, we're going to go around the right side this time instead of the left side, or we're going to go straight up the middle. Like, you can kind of make that play very early on, and it opens you up to this kind of aggressive offense.
And the Midnight is just throwing a wrench in the mix of the Knights. They seem to be able to hold their own until Midnight comes out, and then everything falls to the wayside. The Renegades, I think, are just playing around that Maeve ultimate right now, and for good reason. I mean, obviously there's a lot of utility, but all seems to be going well, and then the moment you hear good night, the Knights immediately fall on the back foot.
And there's
in a big way.
So many good things that Maeve can bring to the table. Like, we obviously highlighted and execute, but like, even if you just take that away and you don't look at that, first off, Midnight is a phenomenal ult because it's just saying, hey, in a shooter where you need to be able to visualize where your opponent is, we're just going to take away your vision for a little bit.
Right.
Not going to stun you, not going to stop you from doing anything. You can still throw out your abilities. If you have like a memory of where the objective is, you can go straight to it.
Right.
But you're not going to be able to see for just a few seconds. And the other thing is that she just does inherently a ton of damage. It's 400 per dagger, more depending on your talent that you've chosen, more depending on, well, actually just the talent. Or if you have a Luminary boost behind you, but you can underestimate her talent, or her damage. You can
definitely
kind of think about it. Like, you'll see maybe an 800 tick go down, and you'll just, oh, whatever, I'll just keep going. But then it hits you again, and then you're dead.
Right. Have we confirmed that he is using Street Justice? I feel like I have not seen a single execute coming out from Invocal just yet. He is going to fall there, unfortunately. Payan is going to start off this fight on the right foot for the Knights, and seemingly for the first time in this series, the Knights have the fast cap enabled on their side. Dethrona Rakata combining for a couple. Next is going to be Hero on this on the Barrack. He's going to fall as well. But yeah, looking much better there for the Knights. 3 ultimates ready for them.
No,
so it's Cat Burglar.
Which is the one that will give you way more damage. Again, 400 a shot. Now you're going to be hitting 30% harder on the first 2 that you throw out. And so you're looking at burst. This movement is going to be very, very nice on this map. But you're also looking at, I mean, Payan is only going to be able to take 2 or 3 shots.
Payan finds the shots that count, though, out of those 2 or 3 shots. Finding some, but here comes Invocal. Here comes the Midnight as well. This has spelled doom in the past for the Knights, but they answer it this time in a big way. Dethrona coming up huge on the con. The Renegades on the back foot. Just didn't really have a chance to really get something going there, I don't think, for the Renegades. The Knights sort of firmly planted themselves on that point and were able to push back the retake attempts. So now the Knights looking to make it 2-2, but the Renegades do have a point to win here. They could make it 3-1, which I think would be tough for the Knights to come back from.
The one thing the Renegades have right now that I feel like we're seeing out of some of the teams, but not necessarily as willing, is that willingness to reach further into your pocket, to say, like, you know what, we have a Maeve that will work on this map. Like, we know this can make a big difference here, so let's try it out.
Right.
We're in a competitive setting. It's been doing well, maybe in scrims or whatever for them, and just see where it goes, because there's a lot of champions, I will say, that are on that list of, yeah, they're not top 5, so I'm never going to play them. And, like, that's kind of how people will view it. Like, there are certain moments where Maeve is going to be terrible, and then there's certain moments like this where she's going to be able to be a perfect shoo-in for the map.
It's actually pretty interesting. I mean, playing the Cat Burglar, in a way, it almost, I mean, if you kind of think of it, it's really just another blaster-type champion just with more mobility if you're not really going to be playing around a lot of those executes, but it's just different enough that it throws the Knights through a bit of a loop. And it's looking great here on Invocal so far. I mean, they're honestly harder shots to hit than a lot of other champions, but Invocal's making it work here. But in the meantime, the Knights have now finally gotten onto the payload, but with a minute left, Gore, might be tough for them to push it through.
That's a very misleading kind of fight, because you're looking at them and you're like, oh man, they're just outside of base, they're fighting, and then you realize they're just outside their base, and the only reason they're winning that fight is because Renegades have been there for so long.
Right.
That payload has not moved until just now, getting about the 50% mark, but even then getting stalled out as Moonchopper and the team are getting aggressive. Like, Renegades understand this map right now, I want to say, at a deeper level than the Knights are playing.
They're playing it so well, and this would have been the Knights' pick. Yeah, because it's map number 3. The Knights lost map number 2, so they would have taken us here to Shattered Desert. They were the first ones to do it in the PPL, and they're doing it here again today, but not to much success. The Renegades looking great. They have 4 ultimates as well. 15 seconds left. 4 ultimates on the side of the Knights. 4 ultimates make it 5 on the side of Renegades. So how much do we try to invest here? It's so far to go, Gore. I think it would be surprising seeing either team invest way too much. And it looks like, and it is, Renegades able to defend successfully. So now it's a clean slate. Renegades are looking for a 4-1 win. Which team, kind of at a blanket, both teams minus the overpower, kind of have a full slate of ultimates here. On an ultimate to ultimate kind of comparison, which team do you like in a point fight?
I honestly think at this point in the game, I have to give it over to Renegades. I feel like, and this will be swayed a little bit by the items when we come back, just to see if we have a heavy resilience coming through. Because if Evil Mojo comes through and kills 3, obviously that's going to change the entire team fight. But you can see Shadow, Hero, Viral, and Moonchopper all have at least 1 tier of the resilience, if not going into tier 2 here before this fight, specifically because that is going to lessen the amount of time they will be polymorphed. So Moonchopper and Hero, it's very important for. Viral, I would put in that list as well, just because they're going to be the ones applying the pressure and kind of setting up someone like Invocal to find these kills.
Well, the Midnight is ready if he wants to use it. That's been what's thrown a wrench into it. Ultimate's starting to come out on both sides. Evil Mojo's going to get Invocal, and he is going to go down on the backside. That's a big loss now for the Renegades. That's 2 kills for Ricotta, 1 for G-Bunny as well. Pittsburgh Knights on the front foot, and they have the fast cap enabled, but the fight is going to keep going here. G-Bunny is able to clean up 1. Hero's trying to stay on this point and fight for his life, but it looks like the Knights have found it on their side.
And that was a little bit of trust. Moonchopper was hoping to be able to save Invocal in that kind of scenario. He made the flank, he got a couple of kills to keep him alive a little bit longer, but just at the tail end of the timer on that polymorph, you see Invocal fall down. And if he lives there, that makes such a huge difference. But now he's back, now he has the Midnight, and they've only gotten 62% here for the Knights.
Yeah, it's surprising, especially with the fast cap on. Payan is going to be the first to fall. Ricotta's so low, he's able to get himself out on that Zin, but the offensive pressure is coming in. All 5 members of Renegades looking to push through. Moonchopper finds the first. G-Bunny and Ricotta, though, are somehow flipping it on its head. Moonchopper and Hero, though, are going to flip it right on back. Renegades find the kills that are important. You clean up this Genos, that could be game here. It might be game anyway. 96 turns into 99. It's going to be the Pip trying to contest here. He's going to go down shortly. And it looks like the Renegades are going to be able to take it, Core.
I mean, they're holding on to control right now. Moonchopper doing whatever he can to try and kill off Dethroner. He's locked down, isolated around the statue, but he's doing the dance he needs to do. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have the backup he needs.
Yeah, and wow, the Renegades look great. You can see the smiles returning to the faces of the Renegades, and for good reason. Map number 1 was really tough for them. Map number 2 was pretty highly contested, and now map number 3 goes in the way of Renegades in a big way. It's a 4-1 map.
And I think there's a huge underestimate, and when you have that 30% more damage, that's going from 800 for hitting 2 daggers to 1,040 for every single time. So good shots coming down from Invocal.
Good shots from Invocal. The Midnight just enough to tilt that in their favor. 2-1 here for the Renegades as we send it back to the desk.
Oh, me, oh, me, oh, my. The Renegades are high in the sky right now. Another win, 2 in a row. The Renegades now in charge of this set and in the lead over Pittsburgh.
Well, what do you want to talk about after that?
Too many things to talk about. Let's start it off with the Mave, who we were seeing as the 5th pick. Second damage, 5th pick in a row for the Renegades. That's worked out to kind of shift things in their favor. And this time, we didn't see the Street Justice. We saw the Cat Burglar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So this, the Legendary, as you saw, or the talent, the casters probably touched on it, but again, when Maeve procs her Prow, which is her little sprint move, her next 2 sets of daggers, so 4 auto attacks total, get that bonus damage so he can poke out from a distance. Builds into morale boost, too. Almost looking to, pilot a little bit of that utility. It's so wide open. Yeah.
He forced.
It's awesome to see. When Midnight comes out, you can't see anyone's rotations. And on a map like Shadow Desert, where it's all rotations, it's kind of big brain.
It's brilliant when you really think about it. I mean, it's heavy big brain, because that's the whole point. You play it like this circle. I mean, and you talk about Cuss Cutie and these guys. They lost on the map against Na'Vi, and then they won on the map their next set that day later. And they said, people think we don't know how to play the map. We know how to play the map. That sounds like a pretty bad out of context.
Oh, do you?
Oh, do you? Says Invocal, who big brains with the Mave. I mean, I think he kind of just baited him, man. And this was a beautiful choice. And this was also the choice from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Renegades have won all of Pittsburgh's map. Now I'm worried if Pittsburgh needs to let Renegades,
whose maps are whose.
Exactly. They need to get back on like on Renegades map here in order to win the set.
And definitely a lot of credits to the rest of the Renegade squad as well. I thought Chopper played well.
He
on
did
the
play
Ruckus.
really well.
Shout outs to Shadow, kind of like playing the Shaolin as well. You mentioned both these guys can play. This is a pretty flexible pick for them.
Yeah.
He performed nicely. Barrick did a ton of damage. Great stuff all around from the Renegades. But that ace in the hole, the Maeve. It's something that we talked about specifically around Jaden is like he can play almost anything. You give him whatever you want, and he's going to be mechanically good on it. Just tell him where to be and what you want him to do, and he will absolutely perform.
And there's no issues with some of the things that makes Maeve kind of make or break, which is being able to hit those kind of weird gravity daggers that fly through the air, and very different than most of the projectiles in all of the games.
You know what it is, man? Maeve is one of the characters in the End Times mode, so
there it is.
Clearly, Invoco's been playing a lot of that and just getting used to the character on the map.
Honestly, you're probably right. Remember when Siege of Ascension Peak was happening, and then we saw the Ascension Peak meta really rely on a lot of those characters. There's just a ton of practice that they have with these characters on this map. And it's showing a whole new champion that may need to be considered heavily into the Shattered Desert meta. But that was this game. We're looking towards next game. In Pittsburgh, they're looking towards another defeat. They don't change things up. Last time they changed the Cassie and Leon bans up, banning the Leon, which they had let through. What do they go for now? Because it seems like it's not mattering.
I think that was a good thought from the Knights, but the Renegades just responded much better than I think the Knights probably anticipated.
Yeah.
That was, I think, decent bans against the Renegades. They picked a good draft, but the Renegades just kind of came out with something that's a wild card, and that's really what the benefit of a pick like Maeve is right now, is that not only has she not really ever been the meta,
Right.
but she's coming back in at a time where when she was that even a niche pick, that's been so long since Now and Then, to where everyone's forgotten about how to play against it at this point. She is almost a completely, cloak and dagger, no pun intended, type of character where you don't really get a lot of practice against her.
Another big thing, Nick, that we're talking about here with all of the league happening, there's just so much of the settling into what this squad is going to be that maybe we mentioned it earlier on, but might be showing up right now. It's that Shadow's looking good again, and Vocal's looking really good again. These guys kind of had an off week last week, let's be honest, and now they're looking more like the deadly duo that they were prior, especially since we've seen, Ricotta, Payan, they've been playing well today as well.
The Cassie banned out yet again.
Who needs
Is that
it?
every game this set, I think?
I
at this
believe
point?
she's got 100%.
Definitely the last two. I just can't remember on Ice Mines. I think she was that other band.
Cassie, I think, was the other band.
Where I wanted to see Ricotta go. I think his Cassie is one of the best in the league, and I think that's something he can actually carry the Knights with here on Frog Isle, but he's not going to get it this time around. Snipers, they have to be the conversation. Tenor Strix last week was nuts here. So that's where I expect this draft to revolve around a little bit, especially if the Knights are picking up this Pip. They've probably looked at the NIP, draft and the way they're playing and saying, all right, Pip's working very good for them. We have Pip players. We also, can play Strix. Let's get Ricotta on it and see what they did, see what we can learn from Tenor.
Nick, something interesting we may not have pointed out, but I'm pretty sure that Knights selected to go second in this draft, because typically when it is like last game, you lose. You get first pick, you get choice of pick and choice of map. They pick Frog Isle, but now they're picking second pick. I think these last pick DPS drafts from Renegades have really thrown Knights for a loop, and they're not prepared in their earlier drafts. So Renegades have to make a big adjustment here to stay ahead.
Fairly standard draft here from the Knights. I think they wanted to mix things up a little bit last game.
I will fight
Didn't
to
work out
protect
for
the
them. I don't know if
sanctity
they're
of
just
the
scared
wild.
to do it again. Or what the case is, but Ash is still going to be open. Both snipers are going to be open, so I don't know if they'll go super early. If one of them goes, it'll probably be Kinessa first, and she'll probably go somewhere around 3rd to 5th.
Which
Curious.
was a natural
I think we will see a
fighter.
sniper
I
matchup.
just hope you lads
And I think
can
we will see an
keep
EV
up.
from Renegades. Unless Knights grab it first, and they're going to grab it first right there. And this is almost guaranteed they're going for a sniper, because why else really take the EV? Yes, to go against maybe. I think at this point, Renegades have to pick their poison and choose which one they like better.
I think do you Ash Genos here? I think Genos is a big thing to take away from the Knights. If you can, it's not a great synergy with Inara, but Renegades still have 4 picks. They can still pivot their composition away from
Form
the
up and
Inara
follow
win
me in.
condition. They're
There's
going to
the
grab
Ash.
Ash. And a big thing about it is there is 2 snipers open. Knessa is going to usually is the first. I think she's by far the more popular sniper right now. So it's not exactly surprising that she gets scooped first.
She's just more immediately deadly. I think Strix has maybe a higher potential threshold to push because he's got the flare. He's got the semi-automatic pistol that you can add some extra damage outside of Knessa, really. But Knessa, just from a straight shot from her sniper, is much more deadly, I think.
And that's all you got to do. Steady aim is just hit fully charged shots. So it's not a lot to ask. Strix is like, sometimes people play crock shot. Tanner played unauthorized use last time and was very much I am damaging people with this flare. I'm going to kill you with this flare, which is a unique playstyle in and of its own. You can play unauthorized use for vision and utility, but there's a lot of different ways to go with it. The Knights will not go for Genos. They will stick with Damba.
I think this was important because Cuss has played Genos 2 times in a row, and Viral's gotten Damba each and every game, and it's been really successful for Viral. And Cuss has not really hit a lot of through times and spaces that have made a lot of variance. I think he's the guy that wants to get back in the action, so this makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised to see Viral opt into something maybe atypical. I know the Grover is available. That's a solid pick, but so is the Ying. And we've seen Saris even work here, especially with the way Bird played it. It was phenomenal when NIP used that. So it'll be the Grover.
It will indeed. I kind of like the switch up from the Knights. Damba and Nara is really, really easy to get a lot of value from. They will even things up 1 sniper apiece with the Strix.
Man.
But now Payne's on his own. No Luminary. Got to do it on his own.
Nick, I worry about the Ruckus Barrack against the Ashe Inara. I feel like the tankiness is just not quite there in terms of competing, and Ruckus is going to
and everything else
do a lot of work.
is, right?
Yeah.
Like, look, you got Eevee for Xin, Knessa for Strix, everything else. So I think that's a good point. It feels very even across the board, except for the front lines, which tilts heavily in favor of Renegades.
And Moonchopper can keep having good plays on the Ashe. If Inara and Hero can combine for some competition on the point, even though Barrack is difficult. He's a slippery rascal. He's got a big head, and that's going to be exactly what Invoco's aiming for. And we're not even counting Shadow's pressure, especially with Yomi on that front line. With a lack of sustain in general, this could be tough.
Feels like the Knights got to win it from the sniper position, which is very fun, and I think a treat for the audience to watch, because when games have to be carried by snipers, that's a rare treat.
Well, let's get it going. It's Renegades up 2-1, and we head to Frog Isle to see the sniper battle against both teams.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Frog Isle, for being a map that gets played. It warms my heart to see. Would you agree with the comments they make on the desk as far as, it's sort of even, but really for Renegades, they have the Ashe, they have the Inara?
I think you could cancel Inara out with Barrack. I feel like those two have been fighting each other on the point for a long time. It really does come down to the fact that Ashe is very tanky, very damaging, and has a huge amount of survivability to her that even some other frontliners like Inara don't quite have, with the propensity to do the same amount of damage. I think a lot of it's going to come down to these shots. Will they make a difference? Shadow is going to be the one who finds the first blood. But in Vocal, I'm going to place a bet. I don't think we're going to see a Knessa hit as many shots on an Eevee as we might see in this game.
No, I agree, and that's why you picked the Eevee. Unfortunately, Pan's not going to be up to make life hard for Invocal. He's going to be dead on the backside. Shadow's getting very aggressive here, in behind even the Barrack from the Knights, and he's really feeling himself right here. He's feeling aggressive. He's feeling confident. The Renegades find themselves back on the point. Interesting note, Strix is 100% win rate, his 8% pick rate. So looking to hand him his first loss here are the Renegades. It helps when you have a guy like Bittner hitting every single shot. Ricotta is going to find his first of this match. Dethroner as well is going to answer back on a Moonchopper. There you go, Ricotta, making him connect. Shadow drops, so that's 3 down now in this fight on the side of Renegades. 1 will be coming back. Here comes the Grover as well, and now the Eevee. Now Pan can get a little more aggressive. And it looks like the Renegades are firmly pushed back.
And being able to get this kind of control and potentially give Pan some room to finally work, where I feel like the last 2 games he has not had any real stance. He hasn't had the room to be able to make that effort. And even now, he gets shut down. He's trying to win a boxing match between him and Knessa, and Zen just comes up behind him to shut him down. That's what's been giving Renegades the edge, is they just lock Pan out.
Yeah, the Eevee has been down so much at the start of these fights that the Renegades have almost had an easy time of it. The Ruckus is going to be the only one contesting right now, and G-Bunny's actually going to fall. Overtime ticking away here. And the Dread Serpent's going to come out anyway, but there's no touch coming out on the side of the Knights, and the health bars are halfway there. Ricotta with a nice double to stall this one out, but Invocal answers back as well. And now Pan's back in the fight on the Eevee. He's going to look to find some damage here. Going to look to get this push started off on the right foot, but Invocal not missing many shots. You have to watch out. Pan is on your right side. You know that. You know that the Eevee's over there. But look, the Kinessa slightly edging out the damage from the Strix. And that's kind of the story here. Everyone else is, 10 or so thousand behind.
And honestly, you're looking at literally exactly what the desk said. This is, the fights are going back and forth between the snipers as to who's getting more shots, who's getting the kill, maybe going a little bit more towards Ricardo's way, but almost every single time he's been able to kind of pick one up, something else happens to him. The flanks are going back and forth. Pan hasn't been able to have as much of a performance as Shadow on this Zen, so you're seeing maybe that lean more towards the Renegades' favor, but on paper, theoretically, they go even. It's just, where are Ashen and Nara? Where are they kind of keeping it forward? You have 4-2 and 2 for Shadow, 0-3 and 3 for Pan, and then 3-1 and 1 versus 5-2 and 0. It is very much on the fact that Hero is 3-0 and 3.
I was going to say, look at the got the 6th streak on the Inara. Every once in a while there will be an Inara game where it just seems like whoever's playing the champion manages to find an unreasonable amount of kills for Inara. And Hero, at least starting off, he has the majority share of kills on his team. The Whirlwind's going to come out, find some healing for the blue team here. Dethroner drops the dome shield, but they're just going to back off right now. Renegades, they lose Moonchopper. They're going to back off. Pan's going to try to get in. He does find Shadow as well with 51 seconds left. Renegades are on the back foot here. Pittsburgh Knights utilize some ultimates there. The Ice Storm as well as the dome shield coming out. They have the Hexafire. On the opposite side, you only have Headhunter for Invocal. What do the Renegades need to do here, Gore, to tilt this one back in their favor?
I mean, a couple of kills should be easy to pick up to be able to get back into it, but this is actually going to be one of those scenarios where if you can get overtime and you can push it in, then it's absolutely a huge boon to you, but there's nothing really against letting this go. I mean, you just got 2 huge ults, potentially able to get more here as you have the Jet Surf and the Hexafire come up. If you can force Knights to use their ults in an uncomfortable manner and that's all they get is a defensive point, you're very happy with that.
You're happy with it. You're also happy with Invocal with a nice double to start off this fight, looking for the angle to make it 3. He's hitting his shots, but unfortunately Summer just going into the shield. The Spite drops Dethroner, and Attribute Renegades are on the front foot here. And they find just 3 kills, make it 4 in that final fight in what looked like a stalled out push. The Renegades are looking really good right now. Hero adding an extra assist in that fight. Viral 0-1 and 9, Invocal 5-1 and 2. Everything seems to be looking Renegades' favor right now.
And a lot of amazing control coming down from them as well. They didn't need to use all of their ults at the end. They used the Spite, but Spite is one of the few ults that when you have it and when you hit it, depending on whether or not you're running Guillotine, which most of these players, they can be running Yomi, it does not feel like an ult. You're going to be able to, it's really, in this case, used for exactly what they needed it for. I'm going to hold him up. Hey, Invocal, shoot this guy that's held still. He can't run away. His head's going to be static. You can find those shots. And they use it to get rid of the Throner. They have to use it in tandem with each other. And of course, Headhunter was used by Invocal. But luckily, both of those ults, again, you don't need them for the point.
It's like a poor man's overpower.
Yeah.
Kind of in a way. Hell, we even see people use it to just get a better positional advantage sometimes. People feel free to use that Spite at will, and Vocal's going to start off this fight in a big way again. Hero's going to continue his streak, make it 4-0-4 for him here. Now G-Bunny's going to look to get aggressive, but he's actually getting pushed out here. Shadow on the Zen continues his tear. The Knights started off on the point with the help of the fast cap, get to 42%, but instead it's the Renegades on the retake, and the Knights are firmly pushed back into their base here.
Renegades, the time they've been spent practicing, the time they've been theory crafting their coach, like everything they have going behind them into these drafts right now is working incredibly well. And it has been a polar opposite these last two. Let's say this game in there, of the last 3 games we've seen compared to map number 1. This is not the same team I saw on Ice Mines.
No, surprisingly, the Renegades coming off a double week last week were the ones who just needed to knock off the dust a little bit in game 1. Renegades do that in game number 1. The Knights have 2 weeks off, or a week off, I should say, the gap week. And they start off hot, but are now on the back foot here. The Renegades fully streaked out. You got 5 members with the fires burning. The Knights, who nearly gets the ruckus off. He's going to dash back in. Getting himself out with the Vine. That's a good play there from Viral. Hero, Pan and Dethroner, though, start off this fight very good for the Knights.
I mean, being able to get a couple of kills, you get rid of Hero and Viral, which makes it a lot easier to kind of find that damage somewhere else. But that's the big issue right there. Pan has never been safe. He is almost always locked down. Whether Invocal is the one finding the shot or Shadow is, someone is making sure to keep him locked away. Finally, they get rid of Shadow. They're putting a little bit of pressure onto it. But
Invocal.
I said it earlier. I think we're going to see more Kinessa shots hitting an Eevee than we see in a normal game.
And it's surprising. I mean, Pittsburgh Knights picked up the Eevee. I think it was their second pick,
Yeah, it was early.
knowing that the Renegades were going to go with one of the two snipers. And almost worse for wear because the Eevee's been firmly on the back foot here. And Vocal's been hitting his shots. He's been playing safe. You see him there teleporting out. He's assisting in almost all these kills. Out comes the Ice Storm as well. It's going to find some damage. Pan is going to find a kill here. Viral, though, and Invocal, and Shadow now. 3 kills for the Renegades, a double kill for Invocal. Only the Damba standing. Make it a triple for the Kinessa, and make it 4-0 for the Renegades.
This comes down to one thing, and one thing I think very importantly, and that is when you look at the flanks, we wrote them off at the very beginning as this should be equal, right? One's going to be going for Strict, the other one's going to go for Kinessa. But the thing is, every team has one player right now that when they get locked in, it doesn't matter how good you are at Eevee, they're going to find that shot. And that, in that case, was Invocal. Every single time Payan wanted to get in, if he made it past Shadow, he did not make it to Invocal. And if he was able to get that kill, he walked away with maybe 100 health.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost in every single fight we saw Invocal with like a double kill or greater in
when
that
he's
fight.
locked in, it's scary.
And it's not even so much that Ricotta wasn't playing well. It was just such a quiet Strix game because Invocal was essentially hitting everything there on the Kinessa. But wouldn't you believe it, 3-1 here for the Renegades. Let's send it back to the desk to set up game 4.
Well, wouldn't you believe it? The Renegades now 2 games ahead of Pittsburgh, and it looks like they could be taking the set with one more. Nick, what are we looking at here?
This is crazy. I mean, this is the Renegades coming alive, definitely. I think picking themselves up after a rough week last time around, and the Knights maybe a little underestimating of this squad. I think the Renegades, had a good draft, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think it was like, their backline played better, and they just had a better front line.
Right. And I think it was easy to acknowledge that. And what we saw earlier on were that the Knights had a better draft. Now it seems like the Renegades have shifted that. And can the Knights make another adjustment? That will be like the tail if this set continues to go on. It was nearly impossible to go to the back line. I think they played their cards early with the Eevee pick, and they needed that to overperform, especially since they said, yeah, we're picking Eevee. Yeah, we know you're going to Sniper. So are we. And what you going to do about it? The Zen ended up being a huge boon for them as well. And I think this overall week has been just a blessing for the Renegades.
It's really tough. I mean, G-Bunny goes, 0-8, I think, on this Ruckus. It's his first Ruckus game of the set, and he's got to play into Ash Zin. Neither of those characters can be just bullied down.
No.
Ruckus doesn't really look to bully down many frontliners, but, like, that would be like a Bomb King or a Cassie early on.
Right.
But it's Zin. It's not a carry. He's going to go into his counter. He's going to whirl away. He's going to build. He's got too much stall for Ruckus to get in and blow up. And then Vocal's kind of doing this the whole time.
I mean, and the way that Hero played it, I want to give credit to him because we don't often shout him out. Moonchopper did well on the Ashe, as we've seen him do today, which is awesome. But Hero was getting a lot of double kills, creating a lot of space, playing forward as an Inara. When sometimes we see the Inara play that point presence, Hero was up in the faces of a lot of these players, initiating seismic crashes. And that's why Invocal and Shadow had the space to do things like that. And they were popping off, Nick. When we walked by the booth, they popped off. They were screaming.
They are screaming. They are ready to win this set and put their foot down and push the Knights down towards the bottom of the standings, because these teams are both 1-3. This is a big game.
Oh, yeah.
Because next week, if you're going in as like you're starting to really weigh on yourselves, you don't have Space Station Gaming below you anymore as that default hasn't played a game yet, so it just doesn't look like you're quite bottom of the barrel.
Right.
Either of these teams, if they start to lose here, they are looking like the bottom of the barrel team in the league.
Yeah, and Cuss clearly yelling at some people. He gave the 4-0 prediction when we were going to him in the cameras before the set. Things looking all but exactly the opposite as of now. I look like I heard the word
This
aggressive.
This looks like LeBron James. Who's the coach?
Hey,
really?
who is the coach here?
Vapor with his hands crossed behind him.
Yeah, I mean, and the tilt could be happening. One thing we do know about, teams, some of the North American teams in general, is that very emotional. You can see it on the positive end with Renegades. Could there be a negative factor happening
Emotion
here?
has always been a factor when Cuss Cutie is in the booth.
Yeah.
It always has been. Whether it's riding extremely high and they win the set 4-0, 4-1, doesn't matter. or things are not going their way, and it is a grim outlook. People don't talk as much. Cuss is still talking and clearly feels as though there is a black and white solution, just given in body language and facial expression and the way he's communicating with his teammates right now. Dethrone are not looking happy. Obviously, this is not a happy time to be in the Knights booth, but set is not over. Game 5 is coming up, and there still is room to bounce back for the Knights. They get to pick the map again.
Yeah, I mean, and they've tried everything. They've tried no pip. They've tried still sticking with the pip. They've tried a different map. They've tried taking away second pick. They've done it all. Renegades have somehow kind of unlocked the source code of Pittsburgh Knights.
It's a lot of pip.
A lot of pip.
It's it's good, but it's not automatic. I think that's what we've kind of learned here today. They've run it in almost every single game, but maybe figuring out how NIP were able to do it so successfully. They looked great with their pip. Is pip the solution for the Knights going forward at this point? And are the Renegades as versatile as I don't think we've given them credit for? They were really kind of pulling out a lot of different stuff today.
Well, here's the thing. Would a team maybe better equipped to expose them be exposing them? I'd say yes. I think NIP would still be beating Renegades handily. I think they'd be beating most teams handily, as they've proven already. But against a team that is still figuring their identity out, that's still having some issues and can be taken advantage of if you put them on the back foot, Renegades seem to, at least for the most part, be 60-40 in winning those matchups and not on the bottom half of it. So pretty good stuff. Knights will now take first pick, even though this is their map selection and it is Serpent Beach that they're going to.
Well, they got to figure out a couple of things here. This is a very kind of different style of map. Serpent Beach is one of those maps that is very different from like a Jag Falls. I like Jag Falls because I don't feel like it dictates the draft or limits the draft, I guess is a better way to put it. Serpent Beach can be tough if you don't find a way to take high ground in a lot of cases, or take space in the case of that fight behind the waterfall. Knights look to switch up the bands a little bit here, though. In the first pick position, you do have the driver's seat to try and leave something open for yourself to scoop.
Man, they're going deep, aren't they? They're banning the Genos now and trying to put pressure on the support pick, because Cuss clearly doesn't want to play the Genos anymore. He's played it twice, lost twice, played the Damba, lost another time. And the pip hasn't worked, but it could work here.
It's kind of strange. Like, normally that fourth ban is what pissed us off last game.
Right.
Genos isn't even picked or banned last game. Genos was not in Frog Isle. Genos hasn't really been a be-all, end-all win condition in this set.
Right.
So they just take it
You
off.
trespass and are unwanted.
I don't really know why. It doesn't seem like
Form up
Viral
and
really
follow
wants
me
to
in.
play it.
No, I mean, I think Viral's proven he's fine with Damba. The only thing I could see is Knight's going to take Damba here, but then I would assume Viral takes Grover. And Grover is okay on this map. He actually is pretty decent. Doesn't have the flexibility as a Genos might.
That
And
wasn't
it does
very
limit
nice.
a triple DPS, so Knights maybe know a little bit more about what they can expect from Renegades.
That's what I want.
But the Cassie, first unbanned, and maybe that's the reason, Nick, because the Cassie has stayed in that position. And so they do allow it to go forward, but now that Renegades pass on it with their two frontline choices, the Knights have it.
And maybe just by leaving Leon, and just to quickly comment on Grover, I think Grover is just as good on Serpent Beach as he is on Frog Isle, and clearly that's good enough to force him. So, can get on the high ground. That's actually a very unique element of Grover.
Yep.
That
Kneel.
does any support? Ying, I guess you could throw a clone and Dimensional Link, but
could.
other than that, there is very limited vertical mobility for the support class.
Explosives.
You get that Space
check.
Jam on Genos,
Dashing
dog.
good.
Watch out.
I guess no, wait, you're right.
Roll
You're actually
around
right.
skill.
You get the angles right, man.
Yeah.
Last one
Yep.
standing wins.
Not wrong. You're not wrong. This feels comfortable for the Knights. I
Oh.
do have to say.
But
Feels
look at
comfortable.
this. The Maeve locking in for Renegades to
Scout,
accent
though.
what they're doing. And Shadow showing flexibility not only on the Shaolin, now on the Leon, it would seem, as Invoco would take this one if it does become official. The Pip, the Barrack for the Knights. How do you feel?
Either way, we're impressed, I think, about the flexibility of the Renegades. But I'm curious to see, with Scout on board, if Ricotta can use that effectively, how much value does Midnight
Welcome
get?
to
And then
the
how
main
much value
streets,
does
kitten.
Maeve get overall?
Definitely a hard counter. Let's see if it works out. Renegades trying to close this set now as we send it down to Serpent Beach with Dave and Gorb taking you there.
Thanks, guys. And I think the Renegades' flexibility, Gore. I mean, we saw them working on their flexibility thanks to the esports medicine program. Just kidding. They do look really good.
Gotta get your squats in, you know?
Right, get the squats in. They looked. Invoca looked amazing on the Maeve on Shattered Desert.
Yeah.
And they played Cat Burglar, so maybe more of the same here from him. But the Midnight was just enough to throw the Knights off every single time.
And I feel like this is another map, and if I'm going to give Maeve 2 maps, first off, Shadow Desert looked like a really, really solid one for her, but Serpent Beach has always been a map where Maeve can shine. Very similar to Eevee for the same reasons, where it's just a lot more avenues for you to kind of pursue. Your mobility really helps you out here. So even if you're flexing around a little bit, even if maybe maybe Shadow's playing this Leon and it's something we haven't seen, maybe Shadow's playing the Maeve and he has a little bit more in his wheelhouse than we thought. Either way, you're bringing in a champion that it seemed like it already caught the Knights off guard, and I think it will again.
Well, Game 5 looking to get underway here. The Knights are going to try to make it a 4-1. Wait, no. Renegades are going to try to make it a 4-1. The Knights are going to try to avoid it being a 4-1 and start their comeback here. Payan, though, on the Pip. I mean, Pip, I think, for you has kind of been it sort of depends on the evil mojos in a way. Like, if you hit 3, suddenly the fight swings entirely in your favor, and it's game over from that point. But last time we saw the Pip into the Maeve as well, it didn't really come up in their favor.
And that's honestly been a lot of it. Pan, at this point, has just been locked down these last few games. That's been a big difference maker. It's just, I don't think I've seen him able to really get any kills off, let alone being able to kind of have that pressure to find a good ult. There was one moment on Shattered Desert where he had that kind of reprieve where he does get that ult off. Right now, he finally gets a kill, but if he goes down, it almost feels like a lot of the pressure from the Knights goes with him.
And you know what? That was Invocal zoning out 3 members of the Knights, essentially. And honestly, it seemed like he was fine to trade out his life there because he found so much damage in the meantime. There are some low members of the Renegades here. If G-Bunny and the rest of the Knights look to get aggressive here, they could find themselves in a pretty big advantage. Invocal's back. He is in the fight here, but G-Bunny is holding down this lower alleyway right now and doing a good job of it. Renegades on the back foot. Pittsburgh Knights, though, 42% here. And they have the high ground pretty firmly locked down here, the Knights.
And this is where I actually want to see where Shadow can do a lot, right? Because we just saw him take a couple of shots, didn't quite connect, finally takes down Pan right there. But can he fill in the Leon's shoes very similarly to what we'd see on Invocal? I don't expect the exact same level because obviously that's asking a lot, but right now he's hitting everything he needs.
Gore calls your name, you better answer, and he does in a big way. Invocal cleaning up the final kill there, but Shadow, I think that was an unofficial quadra there for him. He found a double. Found another double after that, and Invocal cleans up the final kill, and that is just enough. The Evil Mojo comes out a little bit late, gonna find themselves some space. Only 1 kill though. Shadow and Invocal combining for another couple kills as well, and the payload already starting to move forward. If it's not Invocal, it suddenly becomes Shadow. And wow, Shadow really carried that one.
You know, I'm going to call him out. That was overkill. I was just asking you to hit some more shots. I didn't mean get 4 kills in a row.
I'm sorry.
I mean, obviously, that performance is going to be very good. But that's exactly what I wanted to see out of Renegades was, can you make this look good even though it's not Invocal? Can Shadow play it at that level you needed to be played to make it something competitively viable so Invocal can switch onto this? And based on that, the answer is very heavily yes. A resounding yes.
Resounding
yes. With that coming on with how Invocal is playing this Maeve, you end up with a very, very good equation for success from the Renegades.
This is the guy, though. Cuss Cutie. This is kind of who you're going to lean on if you're the Knights. He's the voice in their ear. The Midnight's coming out. They can't see anything. They know they're getting hit from somewhere. Some damage comes out from Invocal. The Whirlwind is going to be a bit reactionary to top off the blue health bars. Payan is going to drop Shadow, so that's a good start to this fight here for the Knights, and they're going to back off just a little bit. Here comes the Assert Dominance. Stunned up is the Barrack, but he's not going to end up falling. Moonchopper now getting aggressive onto Payan, just pointing his damage back and forth. Either it's Dethroner or it's Payan. He finally drops 1, but unfortunately the Knights are in the driver's seat here in this fight.
Doing what they can, get rid of the front lines. You're going to open up a lot of doors, but Hero squeaks out of that one with his life. Shadow goes down shortly thereafter, though. So even though Inara lives, really all it does is stop the streak from ending, stop from giving over any kind of charge, and let the regroup be maybe a little bit quicker as they kind of get some vision. Look at that payload. See what you can see. Try and plan what can you do in this scenario. You need to get back to the payload. You have 40 seconds to push it about 55% of the way. And there's been a lot of damage coming from the high ground here from the Knights.
I'm assuming, top 3 damage dealers, the Ashe even out-damaging the Cassie and the Pip, and that's where you have to look, I think, if you're the Knights. Ricotta is so talented on this cast. He has not really been able to find his footing up to this point. Unfortunately, he's getting ganked by Invocal and by the Ash over and over and over again, and it's the same story here. Down goes Payan as well. Moonchopper, the only red casualty in this fight. The Knights on the back foot. The Renegades pushing in. The respawns are going to be in their favor, though. This last fight will determine it. Here comes the Midnight.
Trying to get aggressive. Dome Shield going to be in response. Goes up over the sky. Try and find whatever kills he can looking down from above, but Invocal just gets pushed out.
Ooh.
Not able to do too much from up in the air. And now Payan has the high ground over him. This is where it can come through,
Ooh,
and that's
nice.
a beautiful Evil Mojo.
That's a 2 for 2 down for the side of Renegades. Make it 3. Ricotta with a double. And that Evil Mojo, we talked about it coming into this. A good one will flip a fight on its head no matter how firmly in control the other team is. The Renegades looked poised to take that one. And then a beautiful double Evil Mojo comes out, stalls out the push, and they find themselves a point here. The Renegades, though, I mean, the story you have to look at is Invocal on the Maeve has been finding the same bit of pressure that he did in Shattered Desert.
And they definitely seem to be very comfortable with this Maeve. So
Yeah.
that's something that Renegades as a whole have brought. Even last year, even though it was Moonchopper playing instead of Invocal, that was something that was always in the Renegades' wheelhouse, was we can pull out a Maeve when we need to. And they were seemingly the only team that was able to do it at the
Yeah.
time, at least do it successfully. And to see them kind of continue that path, even though they've kind of swapped the roles around, even brought in maybe a couple more minds to try and mold whether or not Maeve will fit in those. She seems to plug in just fine.
Cassie Ultimate's going to spot out some members of the Renegades. They sniff out the Maeve gank that's coming in. Here comes the Seismic Crash, though. It is actually going to get Ricotta on the back end. That's unfortunate. Shadow and Moonchopper combining for the first 2 kills in this fight. The Knights now need to find some damage, or else this could go wrongly and on the back foot, and they are. Hero cleans up the first. Shadow now is going to take his perch up high here. And really the Seismic Crash, the turning point in that fight, the only ultimate that gets used on the side of Renegades. I think the Dread Serpent maybe as well, but it's enough. 87% here and climbing.
I mean, getting aggressive, assert dominance, slam down, get the stun, open up the door for whatever you might need. The Whirlwind in reaction is going to keep everyone topped off, but it buys a lot of room, a lot of space, and at least a little bit of aggression. Ricotta going down early means the Renegades are still in the driver's seat.
Yeah, but they're low right now. If he turns this corner and finds some damage, it could be a big multi-kill coming in here for G-Bunny. Dethroner steals 1. He cleans up the second. But in the meantime, Shadow's found 2 as well. Dethroner can't see anything. All he knows is he's getting damage from every which angle. The Renegades clean up the fight thanks to Shadow, thanks to the Midnight. 2-1 now. Up go the Renegades. And they need to flip something around here because they got stalled out pretty big on the defense last time.
I'm going to give out some shout-outs to Invocal doing his due diligence, the duty that he needs to. He stood on the point because there were no front lines available to be able to come forward with it. Gets a little aggressive, opens up the door for like Moonchopper really to move forward so that he can sit back. Maeve's obviously going to move up a little quicker. But then finding that objective, putting themselves up 2-1, and doing it in such a sweeping fashion.
Yeah.
It's not incredible slash lines. It's not like they're all like 2.0 on their KDAs. It's just they're comfortable, and they're finding the kills when they need them, even if it means trading them out. Unfortunately there, the trade out doesn't happen unless Moonchopper pulls something off here, but he's kind of locked down way too deep.
They get a little too aggressive there, but I will say I'm a fan of that. I think the Renegades of game 1 were just getting shoved out way too easily without feeling confident enough to really go for some of those aggressive pushes. I mean, they get maybe a little bit too aggressive there on the backside, biting off a little more than they can chew, but it at least shows a willingness that if they smell some blood in the water, they're going to go for it. I mean, that could be a good or a bad thing depending on the scenario, but at least having a willingness to really go aggressive when you have a slight advantage, at least it's paying out in their favor this time.
Well, now they're being able to kind of find this. This is actually where I'd say it gets a little more awkward for someone like Maeve, because you have to be able to open up a specific kind of door, and you have to follow things through. But, I mean, you get to live through an entire Evil Mojo. That's something you don't get to say every day.
The Rock saves their lives, and Vocal's going to clean up the Whirlwind halfway through. Moonchopper with a couple, and Vocal's finding the damage. G-Bunny's going to stop the bleeding with 1 kill for himself over the edge, but not entirely goes in Vocal. And now the rest of the Knights are going to fall. Only the Pip, without his Evil Mojo, are up. It was really unfortunate almost where it took place. I mean, they were able to hide behind the Rock, but that's all they had last round to stall out this push from the Renegades, and now it's back on cooldown.
Longingly stroking a picture of Dwayne Johnson. Thanking The Rock for saving their lives and keeping them in it as long as they can.
Or Chris Rock.
Or Chris Rock, I guess. Well, that's when you say The Rock.
Let's be honest.
You think of The Rock.
There's
You don't
one
think
Rock.
of Chris Rock.
Two different.
Let's be real.
Yeah, right. That's true. Two different auras those men give off. Small and funny and Chris Rock, but big and scary for Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But that's all besides the point, because Invocal is going to fall here, and so are the rest of the Renegades. So seemingly against all odds, the Knights on the defensive end able to find the stall out again. And it looked like the Renegades were going to be able to push it through off the lackluster Evil Mojo. Don't spend too much. They still have the Overpower. They still have the Cassie Vision, as well as the Midnight, the Dread Serpent, and the Seismic Crash on the other end. But the damage dealt chart are pretty much the same as the last round. Top 3 damage dealers coming up red. Pittsburgh Knights need to find that offensive power if they're going to win a point here.
The Rock can't save you every time.
No, he cannot.
And I think a lot of it,
As much as he would love to.
especially like end game rounds, or I guess end rounds, in round pushes right now, that is keeping the Knights alive.
Yeah.
Is when Rakata's hitting his shots.
Yeah.
And he's hitting his shots
Definitely.
on the defense almost every single time, but when it comes to the point fight, like he's 8-8. Most of the kills he has are on a defense. Most of the deaths he has are on the point fight. So if he can change this up either right here, or if maybe the Renegades are able to kind of lock him down a little more on the push, then I think that's going to just completely sway the game.
Ooh, well, the early Midnight comes out, and it is good for a kill. G-Bunny was able to drop the healer. The Dama goes down. There's finally an execute from Invocal. He has 2 in this fight. Hero with 1. The Renegades on the front foot here. G-Bunny's going to be the last to fall here for the Knights if he does end up getting cleaned up. But regardless, the Renegades find the win. But look at this. Dethroner still just chilling on the point as this Barrack. He's been happy to do that time after time. Despite losing the fight, the tanks survive, and they're just hanging on the point core.
And this looks a lot more like game number 1 when it comes down to it, right? Where it's just, cool, you were able to win the fight. What do you do with the objective? If you give up too much room, then you don't capture anything. You end up losing the objective no matter what. But this time around, they kind of plan for that. Renegades scoop around, get rid of the Throner right as everyone else on the Knights gets into the fight.
The Enlightenment goes into the shield to find some damage. Oh, the banner comes down. He gets yoinked out of it. The Overpower. Oh, wait, the banner got reset, and Moonchopper is able to ultimate back onto the map. Well played, young Chopper. He gets himself back on. The assert dominance, saving his life there, making a double kill to top it off, and Shadow's going to clean that one up. And the Renegades retake the point after being on the back foot.
And this is such a dangerous round to do this dance on because of the fact that 2-2 means that this point capture could very easily lead to the end of the game, especially if Renegades have learned their lesson as to how to deal with this push. And it all comes down to, cool, you hit your Overpower, but if you had waited just a second longer, Moonchopper would have been vulnerable and he wouldn't have been able to make it back on
shot.
the map.
He did it, though. Moonchopper stayed alive. Invocal and Shadow combining for a couple kills here. Overtime's going to tick away. Dethroner's going to get a touch, but he's going to fall. This will likely be point number 3 here for the Renegades once Cuss Cutie goes down, and he is. So, all right, now we look at the offensive push for the Renegades. You have a chance not only to win this map, but to win the set. Leave PPL week, day 1, with a win. What do you change on your offensive push if you're the Renegades? That's been falling a little bit short for you.
I want to see Invocal, because Maeve has a double jump and because the way jumping works in Paladins, if you actually jump next to a wall, you get a slightly higher jump. If you hug this wall right here, you can double jump onto the high ground. I kind of want to see Invocal do something like this, get into the high ground, get into the back line, and cause a lot of trouble for the Knights.
He does. The Midnight comes down. It's going to turn some heads. Dethroner could be the one who actually ends up falling on the backside of this, but be careful. The Renegades are a little bit split right now. If they don't find some kills here, this could go wrong. They do find one, but Cuss Cutie answers back onto Shadow as well. He's throwing those axes, finding the damage. That's the only kill that comes out. Viral, though, drops Cuss Cutie. The kills are coming up in Red's favor right now. The Pittsburgh Knights are down 3, only Invocal down on the side of the Renegades. Still a minute and a half left. Plenty of time for this to get stalled out if you're on the side of the Knights, but you got to stop getting your kills staggered out. Renegades are on the front foot.
I mean, doing whatever they can. They've got the control. They're rounding the last corner. They're climbing the hill. They could close it out right here. The Seismic Crash comes through. Dome Shield's still available, though, for the Barrack, and I expect he's going to use that to just buy some time.
He throws it down. It does buy him some time. The Seismic Crash as well, finding a couple, but Moonchopper and Rakata are going to answer back with a double kill for each of them. Who's going to be the one who comes out on top? At the moment, it's Hero onto Dethroner. G-Bunny's kind of the last one on the defensive end here, and he could fall. But the respawns are coming out for the Knights here. The Dread Serpent as well starting to answer back. Here's Evil Mojo. Finds one, but there's no kill on the back end of it. Moonchopper ends up falling, though, Gore, and this fight is stalled out at the moment.
They're doing whatever they can. Overpower going to be able to throw off Hero, get rid of the front lines, try to push this to a 3-3. The kills are coming through for the Knights. And that comes down to respawn proximity. That is why it is so difficult to push when the payload gets so close, because they just take a couple steps out and they're right back into the fight, whereas you're spending the next 20 seconds trying to get back.
Still 30 seconds left, though. everything was going on with so much time left, you don't even realize that there's still 20 seconds where the Renegades can come back into this fight and potentially find a win. 100% of the ultimates in the games are used. The Midnight's going to come back soon, as well as the Enlightenment, the Overpower. Most of the blue ultimates will not be back up in time for the end of this round. So the Renegades could have some come up in a timely manner and actually end up getting this one pushed through. Very low pain. You have to be careful here. 2 seconds left. 1 second left. Overtime's going to start ticking away here. Are you going to use the Midnight? One falls on the side of Shadow. If you're Renegades, that could be enough to go on the back foot here.
Honestly, that's going to be enough to make it a little bit more awkward, but Dethroner's the one standing in the front line right now. They get rid of Moonchopper. They get rid of Hero. That's going to become way easier, but Invocal looking for the kills here and there. They have to push while one front line is down. They have to be able to get aggressive. Payan finally has his name spraying out loud. A triple kill comes in for him. The first one in a few games.
Way to be, Payan.
And they put it 3-3.
That's what they needed, without using Evil Mojo. So here you go, 3-3. Trying to stave off a loss to start off the week are the Knights. They still have some ultimates ready to use. You know, Cuss Cutie's in their ear, spitting out the game plan. They have a plan going into it, so do the Renegades. But the point fight has just looked so much better for the Renegades this entire game.
And that's been the key. If you can come through, and at this point, they don't have a lot of ults to work with on the side of the Knights, but if you can come in and at least lock down a couple of people, soon enough you're going to have the overpowered. If you are able to grab Moonchopper either out of his ult or before he gets his ult, that's going to make this a 4v5 right at the beginning. So G-Bunny's probably going to play a very big role. And then, again, Ricotta. He's 12-13. Last round he was 8-8. He's getting kills, but he's dying just as much. How much of an impact he has here, or if he gets cut out too early, will make the difference.
Be careful. A Midnight into Dread Serpent. That's a double scary ultimates coming out. Invocal actually is going to get a kill on the back end, but he's going to fall himself. Hero, though, Payan with 2. He's picking up right where he left off. Can he clean up 3 here? Shadow's dancing around, but he does end up dropping. Payan coming up in a big way at the end of this game. 60% on the side of the Knights, and they have the kills coming up in their favor. This could fall for them. They could win map number 4, and they could start the sweep here.
I mean, as of now, someone on Renegades is going to have to get in, and Vocal's going to be able to do it. He's a chicken falling from the sky. Doesn't matter that you were able to touch. He gets cleaned up almost immediately. Can't get out of that one. And now the Renegades are in a losing position.
They are. Shadow's going to fall as well. Payan with a couple. Unable to get the touch is the Inara. All right, so you stop the bleeding if you're the Knights. It's 3-2 still on the side of the Renegades. They're still in a winning position. Knights need to win 2. We're down to a best of 3 here. You can see Cuss Cutie rubbing his face a little bit. That game, I think, took a lot out of both teams.
I mean, you're looking at this kind of scenario where, I mean, Knights do what they need to do. You need to win that last point, but it comes down to a very key factor, and that is, again, where you're looking at it. Ricotta has everyone jumping in on him. No one's looking for Payan, and Payan comes up right behind the Renegades and just clean sweeps.
He finds the momentum he's been looking for, and they find the win to make it 2-3 here. Let's send it back to Evan and Gore. Who's next to me? Evan and Nick to get their thoughts.
Thanks, Dave.
One day I'm Evan. One day I'm Gore.
He just doesn't respect
Tomorrow
you,
I will be Dave himself.
Send it back to Evan and Dave. Wait, that's me. And then Dave
teleports,
busts into space, and it just the fabric of the universe can't keep up with the amount of multiple instances.
2 Daves cannot occupy the same point in time.
It breaks all these laws, yeah, and then Dave just instantly is gone.
Wowee, though. Here we are going into game number 6. I thought
was
for
unexpected.
a moment, I thought when the payload is knocking on the door for the victory in the game and the set, and Payan whiffs an Evil Mojo almost point blank, it just soars over everyone's head. I thought that was the moment. That's the moment where I stood up off the couch and I started to walk back to the desk because I thought this was over.
I think this is one of those moments where you could see the entire energy of the set shift. I mean, when you're looking at this from the side of Renegade's POV, you play great, you have momentum, you're riding that high. This map goes 3-2. You have a chance to push, you mess up, you have a chance to win the fight, you lose it. Now, Pittsburgh may have started to unlock a little bit of what was missing from those last few games.
And being a winnable game here for the Renegades is definitely what hurts. They got, realistically, they got crushed in that final team fight. They came out very, very aggressive, took the fight 5v4,
That's
popped
true.
all their ultimates. Dethroner is on the objective doing nothing in that team fight the entire, which is fine, which is what he was, that's the strategy, that's what he was there to do, was to just camp on the objective, and the Knights were trying to absorb as much as they could, and they completely succeeded. Not only did they get all these ultimates from the Renegades, they didn't lose the fight 4v5 either. That's incredible what the Knights were able to pull off.
And it does seem that so much of this success in these team fights ride on Pay-It and the Pip. And whenever they were able to instantly deal with this Pip, when they've selected it, it's been pretty easy for the Renegades to move forward and kind of snowball the rest of that fight. He is seeming to be the most important player for this roster, and the Pip specifically the most important champion for the strategies behind the Pittsburgh Knights.
Can do so much so well, especially when you look, I think there was eight or nine rejuvenates in that game. There were so many people that were, you know, when you're scaling a 1200 base heal, that matters a lot. So he's bailing a lot of people out. His damage has been incredible. He hits one of the hottest Evil Mojos on a mid-air Maeve that is, you know, 10 body lengths above him. As she's coming to touch the point, prevents that. Like, really crazy stuff. He's checking all the boxes on Pip at the moment.
Well, now it's Warder's Gate time, and the only other map after this, guys, is Timber Mill. So it'll be interesting either way from here on out. It is now up again for Renegades to win this set if they would like to, but the Knights trying to send it to a best of 7 game. That's the only way they can win. They've got to do 3 in a row. The reverse sweep. And Renegades going to do everything that they can to stop that.
I hope we do get a Game 7, just so we can end on like one of the meme maps here.
A Timber Mill to decide it all.
Or Fish. I think Fish Market's
Oh,
still
Fish,
open.
you're right. You're right. Fish is still open.
And equally as
that's where teams go to
as
lose.
memed.
I forgot we have so many maps
But
now.
then
with
who
Shadow
loses
Desert.
at that point?
It's the team that's supposed to. It's the team that's
The
supposed to.
team
lose.
that's supposed to lose shall lose.
Yeah.
It is the law of Fish
It is
Market.
it is the law of Fish Market. It's the place teams go to lose.
Oh man,
It's true.
I like Fish Market because of the docks out. That like the most expansive yet useless map feature.
You see one guy who always uses it, you know, in a random casual queue. Just a Strix will stand out there. Like, where the heck is
Come
this?
on.
You get hit for half health. You're like, what the? Where did that go?
Stop it.
You know,
Stop it.
You're like, oh my God, it's you. and then the rest of my game is just trying to like get that guy off that. I forget about the map, the points, you know, my teammates. I'm just like, I got to win this battle against this person. And Renegades,
made it personal.
Yeah, you made it personal. Now shooting me from those docks. These are my docks here.
I will
4
fight
tank
to
bans
protect
here,
the
so
sanctity
Inara's
of the
been first
wild.
picked a lot for the Renegades, and that's certainly not going to change when there's even
Come on,
less to
let's
pull from
fight.
at this point. Expect high priority on these front lines just because there ain't much left.
Ash and Cassie here.
Nando, Pog.
Very interesting to see this progression. The Cassie has started to work out a little bit for the Knights. But the Pip has been the thing that mattered, and people have left that alone. So Leon is also available here on Warder's Gate. And a lot of this is the decision on how you want to play this map. There's a lot of in and outs. I prefer Zen on this map. I think Maeve,
yeah, I love Zen on this
I think
map.
Maeve could actually do really well on this map as well. And I don't know if the Knights are willing to play it.
I just don't know.
Are natural
I
fighters.
truly
I
don't
just hope you lads
have a
can
strong
keep
opinion
up.
on Maeve just yet. And especially on a map that's pretty new-ish. It's like, I want to see her on, like, maps I know and understand more thoroughly than Warder's Gate.
Yeah.
At the moment, and Zin is a character I really kind of know and understand and love on this map. I think he's so versatile. Doesn't have the highest damage, but has damn near the highest survivability of any of the flanks.
Well, Knights here, knowing that they're going to have to play without the Damba, it looks really nice to go for a Genos. Not only the mobility,
This is a hot
but the
team.
flexibility.
It is like a normal
and,
team, but with
some of
me
these
in it.
front lines also scale pretty nicely.
Oh, look
with a
how
little bit
hard
of
you're
that healing.
trying.
And this
How
is,
embarrassing.
this is either a Mega Potion Pip or they're just going to lock in the Genos later. I think Renegades can bet on this being Pan's Pip, knowing a Genos is most likely coming, and that they're not going to see any crazy triple tank flex or damage flex after this.
At this point, the one thing I will say about what Shadow is playing is that I do think Bomb King being open is important here. I think Bomb King brings a better ultimate to the table and the suite of already nice ultimates that is brewing for the Renegades. But as they do hover Shaw's in,
You are nothing
mean
but
Shaolin.
dust in the wind.
That's the flavor of the day.
I was once thrown
Shaw's
to the
in. It
wolves.
flows so nicely.
Now
Zinlin.
Zinlin. Shaw's in or Zinlin. Either way, it's nice. So this is the Grover that's coming in. So they could have been the Genos, but they realized that this was a damage pip coming for pay-in, and now the Shaolin versus the Zen. They've got two relative point tanks, but Barrett can push up a little bit more. We've seen Hero. He has a propensity to go forward a little bit more as well. Against the Ashe and the Fernando. How do you feel about these lineups?
I definitely actually think these are very balanced and will come down a little bit more to the Renegades winning these fights. I think they have a little bit more damage and ability to get these kills, and if the fights start to drag on, when you have all this auxiliary healing and Formidable and the potion from Pip, I think the Knights will win in a longer engagement.
Yeah, it does feel like they've got a lot going for them, especially the big game Cassie. If he wants to go for that route, it's very good against the Inara.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure that's going to need to be applied, and the mobility of Grover, it's going to be tough to catch him down. It's going to be up to Shadow and Invocal to pop off on these 2 damage. And Pittsburgh to try and make sure this pip can work yet again to keep their hopes alive. It's Game 6, Renegades and Pittsburgh. Let's send it down to your casters as we head in to Warriors Gate.
You, Evan and Nick, on the desk for breaking that one down and setting this one up. Gore, they get the pip again, paying on the pip. But on the opposite side, you get Shadow on his Shaolin again, which we've seen to some mixed success today. And Vocal on the Zin. I don't think we've seen him on the Zin yet today. But Ricotta as well. We kind of got their early thoughts on the lineup. How are you feeling about these two sides?
I think we're not going to see that stay Ferocity. That's the only thing that's on my mind right now. Ferocity, for anyone who might not know, means that Grover, the longer those axes go across the map, the more damage he's going to be able to do. Used to be really big for damaging, played in like very similar roles as you would see like a sniper. Not played often anymore. No. It is very much all about just trying to get any healing you can. So I doubt we're going to see that come through. You never know. Maybe we have the Knights kind of throwing everyone for a loop and changing things up drastically. But the Renegades right here, specifically for the map that they are playing on Warriors Gate, which is one we haven't got to see in a couple weeks, but I think their draft fits better for it. They have a couple of point tanks that can kind of trade off on a very, very open point, and they can kind of play the angles they need to between Shadow and Invocal to make sure that there's almost always going to be pressure onto someone like Dethroner or G-Money who might be standing there.
Well, it almost feels like this one has to go to 7 games, doesn't it? The way these games have been going, Grover
lose the base with that.
Grover has not been. Did he change out his talent?
No, I mean it looks like he was still hovering over it. Whether or not he leaves the base with this, because it does look like Pip has Mega Potion over there as well.
Still
so Ferocity, no, it's still Catalyst. There it is. There's the Rampant Blooming. Cuss giving us a scare. I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's not Mega Potion. That can't be
DPS
unless I
Grover.
just completely forgotten the icon for it.
Well,
that
he is going to go back.
Though.
That would have been spicy. Some spice coming in here to mix things up. Renegades and Pittsburgh Knights, they are going back and forth right now. Lots of 7-point games. And Vocalo's going to start this one off in a very aggressive manner. He's going to find the first kill onto Ricotta. So now they can choose to get aggressive. And instead of the Knights being the first ones on the point and then getting some kills, it's actually the Renegades who have found the early point and found the early aggression, Gore.
And being able to kind of dance around, even right there, and Vocal actually walked away with his life. Hero is incredibly low, but Pan not able to follow it up. They get rid of Moonchopper, they get rid of Hero, they get rid of Viral. 1, 2, 3, 4. They just throw him on the chopping block and toss him right down the trash.
66% is where that one stalls out. And just flipping it on its head. Pan with 3 kills in that one. I don't need the evil mojo to find the kills, he says. I just need some good aim on the blaster, and he certainly has that. The Renegades now will look to retake. Point totals evened out percentage-wise. Invocal was kind of a big driving force at the beginning of that last round. He found a lot of damage to start things off, so that's what he'll look to do again here. 96% though for the Knights. Is anyone in position to contest? It looks like the Inara's up there, so we'll get stalled out, but the Evil Mojo's going to drop her. Overtime's going to start ticking away. Now it's down to Moonchopper to get a touch on the point. He does just that, but Ricotta's on the back foot here. Could this actually end up getting flipped in favor of the Renegades? A nice Dread Serpent sends a few running, but the Whirlwind is going to top them all off, and it looks like the Pittsburgh Knights are going to be able to stabilize.
Yeah, remember how there was a very big portion of the last couple of maps where it's been mentioned that Payan was getting heavily targeted by the Renegades?
Yeah.
And how this time Payan does not die, and therefore Payan is able to be impactful throughout the entirety of the fight. Like, it sometimes can be something as simple as that. The Knights play that very well, the way they get aggressive and the way they kind of isolate it. And again, the Renegades don't have the front lines that are known for pushing into you. They have a little bit of pushing power, but they have the staying power. They have the point capture. They have, we can survive forever on this point. But the problem is you need at least someone behind you to kind of keep that going. They don't have this moment really written for them when you have G-Bunny and a Fernando on the other side kind of pushing into you all the time.
Pan continues his tear as well, feeling safe behind G-Bunny, behind the Fernando. 4 streaks now on the side of the Knights. G-Bunny, the one streakless player. I assume he'll be approaching that with some more assists here. And honestly, the Renegades are not feeling confident and even stepping out of their base at the moment. Pan goes low. Some nice shots there from Shadow. Heat Haze not used, but going into the invisibility just for a moment. Now on the back foot of the Knights. They still have plenty of time. I mean, the payload is inches from going in, but it essentially had not stopped moving since the point fight, which is why they're so close with so much time. So they're going to back off, regroup a little bit. Some ultimates ready for both sides here. Only the Immortal, actually. Now the Evil Mojo. Whirlwind will be up shortly. You have Seismic Crash, Heat Haze, Dome Shield. Essentially the full suite ready for the Renegades if they want to use those on the defense here.
It's all going to come down to this. There's going to be an Evil Mojo. That's going to get 1 kill. That's going to get 2 kills over there on the left-hand side. Wow. Now there is no chance for Moonchopper to survive the damage from Ricotta.
I blinked, which is Gore.
Yeah,
I closed.
Like, genuinely? You're not kidding.
I closed my eyes. The Knights utilizing the Immortal, the Evil Mojo to the full. I mean, that was all on the back of 2 ultimates. And really driving that one home. I literally blinked and then opened my eyes and the fight was almost over. And this looked like the Pittsburgh Knights that we saw in game number 1. Cohesive team fighting around the important ultimates. Whatever they talked about in between games, it looks like they've at least found a way to stall out what the Renegades are throwing at them.
I mean, they had backs against the wall just now, right? I mean, that's exactly what the last map was. 3-3, they lose 1 point, and they're done for the day.
Right.
They don't get to play again until tomorrow. They win that point. That is such a huge reliever for them, but this is such a huge game maker right here if they can kill off someone early.
Ultimate's starting to fly early on in this one, and Vocal and G-Bunny are going to be the ones to open it up for their respective teams here. Shadow's trying to find some damage, able to sneak some arrows in on the opposite side of that Anar wall. Payan and Vocal now starting to answer some as well. The shoulder bash is going to be good. He's going to be low, but Payan on the meantime on the backside finds himself too. Now the aggression's looking to fall in on him. He cleans up the Inara as well. He has 3 in this fight. Could be 4 here onto the Barrack, and it is. And that could have been dangerous for the Knights. If they lose that fight in a big way, the Renegades had the fast cap. But instead, Payan continues his tear on this Pip. And they retake the point here with 39%.
I'm bouncing between 2 opinions really for the Knights right now, where I kind of wish they weren't as heavily relying on Pip. But man, does it work out so well for them when it works out. It's one of those things that if it's going to be hit or miss and you're going to have to kind of pull that trigger as to, you know what, we're just going to pick it and see what happens, at least they're getting this kind of performance out of Payan when they need to. If they can get this kill right here and clean it up, it's going to be really good.
Well, the ultimates that weren't ready for fight number 1 were ready here. The Evil Mojo, one of them. Payan continuing the triple now on the Pip. Can you make it 4 onto the Inara? One of them's going to. And it is him, so 4 in this fight for Payan. 16, 1, and 8. But look at Cuskewty, 1, 0, and 20 on your healer. That's keeping a lot of people healthy for a large amount of time. 3-0 here for the Knights. Could push it through here and make it a tied-up series.
I mean, this is exactly what the Knights need to be able to find themselves. Just some common ground with the Renegades, which is going to be putting them in the same position. Backs against the wall. So there's going to be Cuss's first death. Payan taking his from 1 to 2. G-Bunny falling right there. So nowhere near as aggressive or dominant as that first push. And because that, it forces Dethroner to fall back. It gives the Renegades a little bit of breathing room to attempt and to set up a defense here. And charge up some of these ults. The Dome Shield's coming up, Seismic Crash. They have the Dread Serpent. They have the Heat Haze. If they need to use them for a defense, I mean, at this point, you almost have to.
Counter's going to come out. blocked the knockback there. G-Bunny, oh, that's a nice sphere. Is there any follow-up, though? Not at the moment. Shadow does end up finding one. I believe that Dread Serpent found three, but instead the damage again is getting flipped onto the opposite side. Pain and Dethroner are the ones that are going to find some kills early on here, but you can't forget about Invocal. 65 health. They're just not finishing him off at the moment. He's pouring out damage. One shot will do it. That's a good invulnerability there. Unfortunately, he falls in the backside. Pain again, another multi-kill. Who would have guessed it? The Pip is still rolling here. The Evil Mojo's ready for this final push.
I mean, being able to set it up like this, they're coming around some of the toughest corners in the game. This is not an easy map to find the push on for a very similar reason to other maps. Not necessarily as heavy on choke points, as much as it is that this entire fight, you don't really get line of sight of where you're going to have, in this case, Renegades coming from. And because of that, it makes it easy for Invocal to be able to try and find a flank like that. Unfortunately for him, Whirlwind makes it a lot easier for Ricardo to fight right back into it.
Yeah, Whirlwind's going to get those health bars nice and full, and the blue is starting to come up on the wrong side of the death column here in the bottom right of your screen. Hero on the Inara is going to make 4. Moonchopper on Barracks going to make 5, and the Knights fully streaked out are looking to tie it up here 3-3. They just have a little bit left to go. And Gore, it's almost unfortunate in that it looks like Shadow is opening up most of these fights with a kill, and then it just gets flipped onto its side.
Yeah, I mean, being able to find one early on, or even just getting some pressure early on might do something. Get rid of Pan, though, and that actually might be enough to stall this. Pan with an Evil Mojo can easily close this out. Not having the Pip around, you're going to have to dance in overtime for a long time to make sure he gets back in this fight.
Oh, he's got a long walk back from base here. In comes charging the Fernando. In comes charging the Ash. This is the fight that's going to determine it. Down comes the Banner, so she's invulnerable for a few moments. The Dome Shield as well. Immortal's not ready. Rakata's going to drop Shadow, so that's a big win here for the Knights if they keep this one going. Pain is back. He's back from base. He finds some damage. Rakata wants to get involved as well, and he finds one. That's a good Dread Serpent. But is there any follow-up damage? It doesn't really look like it at the moment. They're staying alive. Hero falls. Next is going to be the Maldamba. Next is going to be Shadow. And Pittsburgh Knights answer back 4-0 and tie it up 3-3.
And you know what? They're giving us something we haven't gotten to see yet. First day, we got 3 6-game sets, but this is going to be the first full 7-game set that we've had in these few weeks. And I mean, it's exactly what you want out of it, right? It's going back and forth. That was a 4-0, but that is not what I expect to see. I think next game, depending on where Renegades take it, it's going to be a lot closer, and admittedly, I also don't know if you can rely on Pan to go, 30 million and 2 every game.
Now you look potentially to picks and bans. The Pip has been obnoxious. He's really been the one stalling you out. You got to feel a little bummed on the side of Renegades. The Serpent Beach pushes kept getting stalled out, but that's going to be it for game number 6. We do have a game 7 coming up. Let's send it back to Evan and Nick on the desk to talk about it.
My goodness gracious. Things have shifted, haven't they? It's been a, game 1 and 2 set us up for the whole set, didn't it?
It's insane. I mean, the amount of bounce back that just happened, and this is exactly what I want to look at. Pain's Pip here, top damage in the game, kind of obviously, but it's not even about his damage. It's about how much of that damage he converted into kills. I mean, he was like 16
21
and 2
and
at
3.
this point. It's like you spend so much time analyzing matchups and talk about this and that, and then it's like, and then you can just do this. You can just like pop off mechanically. And I said it's very hard for one guy to kind of have that performance at the PPL level, but I think this was damn close to that.
I mean, this is pretty impressive. And I think Pip, if you look at the in and out, like the mobility, up, down, around, beneath, above, to the side, Pip is probably the best champion to do that. Maybe aside from a Zen, maybe aside from a Cassie, maybe running Exaction as well, and maybe a Maeve. This Pip is all about moving in and out, being in one place at another time, applying pressure, healing, and just being a utility-focused champion. And man, oh man, it worked out.
Look how much he's moving with Cuss, too. This is so much passive healing. Grover's always there, ticking away. He's got lifesteal at level 3 in his loadout, so 30% of this 840 damage shot is being returned back to him. At the same time, it's a ton of self-healing. This game's over before Cauterize really comes online hard. And he was just unstoppable. Too much healing.
It's really the Pip. I mean, the Pip has really been the difference maker for the Pittsburgh Knights, and they're not really shying away from it. It's what's worked for them. It's what worked early. It's what's working late. And now Renegades, I think, are pretty clear that's what's happening. So what's the adjustment? Because you have to either take it away
I don't know, because they've beaten it 3 times.
Yeah, I mean that's the key here. You got to figure out.
I don't know.
What's
Or 2
been,
times.
what has been going on though is that we did see another shift, and it was Moonchopper onto the Barrack, whereas he's been having really phenomenal games on the Ashe, creating space. He clearly wasn't able to do that as well, and it may be just the Ashe a little bit easier to deal with some of the burst damage with Pip, maybe than Barrack does. His natural mobility from the reset of the rocket boots with an explosive flask kind of limits that, and so there is a potential for him to be a little bit more susceptible. The assert dominance, obviously, damage reduction, that goes a little bit against what the Pip likes to do with that immediate burst. So
I think that's worth noting. I think Moonchopper has definitely played pretty aggressive and pretty well on a lot of these front lines, and that was a big question mark about the Renegades, was how well is Moonchopper transitioning into this new rule of aggro tank? And he did very well, and the second they slowed it down, I'm not saying that's all of what it was, but they did lose that game when they slowed it down.
And you have to be willing. Do you bet on this working again? Because in my mind, I'm looking at the draft and the way that Pittsburgh keeps setting it up, it's so they can get the Pip, so Ashe is something that they have control over. And look at that, it's Frozen Guard. We didn't even remember. I guess Frozen Guard, you're right. So there's still Frozen Guard,
that's it,
Fish
though, right?
Market, and Timber Mill. That's got to be it.
That's just good info to have, though.
Yeah,
in a maxed out best of 7 with the current map pool, there's 2 maps that you do not have to play.
You don't have to play. Got it.
That's everything else.
So
That's just good info.
Okay. So Cassie banned by the Renegades. This has opened up a few doors for the Knights as well.
Splitstone was banned, right? I think so.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. Yes, it was.
Nice.
It was banned. Look at
Outplayed.
that. Outplayed. Stream delay. Outplayed. Ruckus banned here for the Knights. Renegades are going to have that first pick Ashe if they want it. But the question is, do you ban the Khan? No, they're taking the Torvald away. I believe Knights will ban Khan here.
This is such a this is a tense game 7 map because Frozen Guard is niche drafting. Like, you can get out drafted hard on Frozen Guard and get caught. Funnily enough, I'm gonna call back to the minor league. Bugsy played this in the minor league on Frozen Guard. He played the Mave and crushed it. I think it was against Clown Fiesta. That was back when Bugsy was playing for All Business, which is now kind of like a 3rd or 4th seed team in the minor league, and he crushed it on Frozen Guard with Mave. So if Renegades have already found some traction with this character on this map, I think that's a pretty big brain ban from the Knights.
Man, okay, so you take Ashe, or you give them Khan Pip, you give them Ashe Pip, you give them something. They seem to be going for it, but oh no, you also give them the Makoa. If you want that, they're going to take it. Even though Moonchopper's shown propensity towards the Ashe, you can't let a chance for the turtle to slip. But this opens up a lot. The only solace is that for Knights or Renegades, maybe it opens up so much they can't get everything.
So do they go for Khan, Ashe here? Inara's still open, Barrack's still open. There is a lot of good frontline open, and exactly what we were talking about last game, where there's 4 frontline bans. There's not a ton open. These guys are gonna grab stuff early. It's the opposite here. Khan and Makoa are still definitely worth picking early, just because they are so damn strong. But I don't know. I think there's enough open on the front line and enough that you need to get for like a niche sniper draft.
In this
if you're going to set
game,
up
you
for that.
win
If you
or
want to
you
grab
die.
a Zin to put
There
pressure
is
on
no
an
middle
enemy
ground.
sniper potentially. Lots to talk about on a Frozen Guard draft for sure.
And it's also questioning, is the Pip so versatile on this map? Can Pip do the
I
same
will
things he was
fight
doing
to
on that
protect the
map?
sanctity of
on
the
this map?
wild.
And how much do you have to put aside what happened in the last 3 maps, like Serpent Beach, like Warder's Gate, where Pip is excellent, into a map that plays into very long distances?
I don't think I've ever seen a Pip here. Yeah.
Exactly. So how much do you have to disregard what's been happening and say, no, we need to still draft the way that we feel Frozen Guard is going to be played?
A good question indeed, and I'm sure one that's racing through the minds of all 10 of these players at the moment. Pretty stoic on both sides. Nobody like really too jubilant at this point. This is game 7. This is a meaningful set because whoever loses this is going to start to fall down to the bottom of the standings. And you do not want to be the team that's being looked down upon. Barrack Pip.
Interesting, man.
That's what they go for.
Interesting. So Knights, as I think it makes sense for them, bet back on the Pip. Payne's feeling good. Who else would you want him on? Ricotta on Leon. That looks good to me. The Renegades have 2 flexes for the DPS now, and you know that they have to augment some type of healer around this, and it's going to be Payne on the Pip. I think they're not even worried about a Mega Potion Pip from Cuss, so they know it's a healer coming. Renegades now, do you snipe?
Let's get
I don't think
this
so.
done.
I think at this point they've drafted a comp that's pretty clumped up, and I think Pip Ultimate is going to be good enough to just counter that out. And they're also saying they're probably not going to go for a sniper. With Makoa, Inara, Grover through the first 3, this isn't exactly a composition that supports a sniper well. Grover can't rotate over to a sniper, heal them, come back, heal them. It's just not effective there. And sorry to take you guys into the Shadow Realm.
It was Genos who came in. He brought us up to the stars. Said, "Nah, they're not ready yet to see."
That scared me.
It scared me as well. It did scare me. I did flinch back. I don't know if we have a replay of that, but I definitely got scared. Victor here, instead of what I could potentially have seen as a Shaolin or a Zen. And I think that it'll give them a lot of range. Shaolin would have given them range. It'll give them the AoE blast, which they wouldn't have gotten. And instead of the Genos, it will be the Damba. I think that's a smarter bet because you've got Grover, Inara, Makoa. That's a big, beefy front line with a lot of healing.
At this point, man, it's Frozen Guard. It's a map that's not played a lot. When you get to these best of 7s, nobody's super comfortable on the 7th map in this series. Also, this just feels like comfort drafts. I think, like, more than anything else, these guys don't want to lose this game, and they want to play a character that they really do feel good on. They feel like, okay, you know, paper matchup is what it is. Look at what Payan just did to us. Let's pick something I'm just feeling damn good about.
I'm just worried about the amount of burst. There's so much on Knights, and there's not as much on the side of Renegades that's as easily, I think, capitalized on. However, the Makoa, that's going to be huge. Moonchopper, he's going to be able to show his chops here on the Turtle. We'll see if they can sink or swim here as they go to the ice tundra of Frozen Guards. Knights have pulled it back, looking to do 3 in a row. Renegades looking to win the set here in Game 7.
Frozen Guard and Gore, we were split across the talent team. We had 2 Renegades, 2 Pittsburgh Knights, almost as if we knew this set would be contended, but on to a Game 7 we go. Somebody has to win here. What do you like from both teams?
What I like is that we are starting and ending on an ice map. We started in Ice Mines, we're ending in Frozen Guard.
True.
But the thing I think I like most is Payan comes into this, right? He's coming right back in on the pip that he just left a very solid game on. But the thing is Renegades, as much as it seems weird to say, because it is very comfort, it does tilt, at least their entire draft to me, does tilt a little bit more as a, this is Ice Mines-centric comfort. So I'm thinking, or not Ice Mines, Frozen Guard-centric comfort. So I'm thinking they're going to have a little bit of a leg up, but it's going to be dependent on that victor.
Well, Pittsburgh Knights need to beat the odds here. The Makoa with an 80% win rate on the few games that he's actually been able to make it through here. And Moonchopper actually, seemingly poetically, finds the first kill in this game. And then Vokal's going to pour out some damage as well. Payan is alive, but he could get melted here. He finally answers back, and Vokal with 2, Dethroner as well. At the moment, it's a 3 for 2 in favor of the Renegades. This is a big team fight here. You need to clean up the barrack. He's not able to do so. Payan comes back into the fight. The ice wall drops down. Shadow drops down as well, but it's 81% here for the Renegades.
And then falling back very quickly just to make sure they're like, okay, regrouping coming through from the Knights. We recognize where Payan is. We can't be into this. We need to wait for Moonchopper to get back. We need to wait for our aggression to be able to come through and for us to feel comfortable. But one of the things very early on that kind of caught my eye, and it was just the difference of, do I throw this grenade up? Do I throw this grenade down? Do I hit con, or do I try to angle it for that pip? And if you kill off Payan there, I'm wondering if the Renegades maybe get a little bit more aggressive.
Right.
I think no matter what, Invocal walks out of that one probably dead. I don't think he gets to choose one and get the other.
Right.
So it's not the best scenario to be in, but you just have to kind of question whether or not it could have opened more doors.
No, and I think that's an interesting thing to continue to watch throughout this game as well, is seemingly throughout the day, the Eevee's been on the opposite side. I don't think we've seen Shadow on Eevee yet today, but he is a tried and true Eevee player, and that'll be a treat to watch, I think. They have a little bit of burst damage. They have a little bit of just full in-your-face hit scan damage in the Victor. I think they have a good blend. Obviously, the burst damage on the opposite side as well. The Makoa, though, I think Moonchopper on the Makoa made a big impact early on. He found the first blood, and you saw him facing off against Ricotta, and it was like just enough aggression to get Ricotta just to back off and leave that initial team fight.
I'm actually really happy you mentioned that, because I think that's worth mentioning. Not only does he have a very low pick rate because he's banned, I think his ban rate was 91%.
Yeah.
His pick rate was like 8, probably sitting around like 8.5. Like it's the other 9%, right? And his win rate was 80%. Like when he is in a game, 1 out of 5 times he's going to lose. And so that means that if you're the Knights here, like, you need to be a little bit more cautious. He just does things really well. And it's not even his damage is something we can't handle. Ancient Rage is really good, but obviously it can be countered. You can deal with it. It's the hook when it comes down to it. Displacing an enemy is one of the best things a champion can have. And so being able to just say, hey, you see how you're safe? Not anymore.
Right.
Now you are literally in a tank full of sharks here with the Renegades. So Moonchopper hitting really good hooks throughout this entire game, I think will set them up for success. Or if that starts faltering, or if the Knights just figure out a good way to kind of combat it, then you're going to start seeing it swing back over in their favor, and they should be able to kind of take it for the black and gold.
Honestly, I mean, it's just such a highly contested set. I mean, the Knights come out swinging game 1, take a clean map number 1 on Ice Mines. They looked like they were going to be unstoppable today. Stone Keep goes to 7 points.
Yeah.
In Renegades' favor, seemingly, it started out in favor of the Knights, and then the Renegades slowly clawed themselves back.
Yeah, fast 2-0 at the very beginning.
Right, and then Frog Isle goes in favor of Renegades in a big way. It's 4-0 for Renegades, and then Pittsburgh Knights. I mean, it's been so back and forth. I don't know. It's so hard to predict who's going to come out on top of this one.
Almost mirrored the way things have been going in, because there's starting out really, really strong, then the Renegades run the show, and then immediately it's switching back to the Knights. So this game is going to kind of cover a lot of it. And I believe what they just said was that there was a frame rate issue going on, so someone's restarting their client, getting back into the game. And with a lot of this, that makes a huge difference, right? Just being able to say, granted, most of the time they're playing on 144 hertz before they get into this, but you run that back and think, man, it drops even slightly if you're playing at something less. You're significantly crippled.
Right. So. My 60 hertz monitor is,
Dude,
59,
my
60, whatever.
9-year-old 60 hertz monitor, yeah.
I was sitting on our computers here the other day just moving the mouse because it looked so cool. It's like, wait, there's no streak behind the mouse?
Actually, I think 144 hertz is doing them disjustice. I actually think we have 244 hertz here.
I think we have the highest potential hertz. Here's the Evil Mojo, though. Finds 1, but Shadow's on a tear right now at the moment. Shadow with 2. Viral is going to find 1 as well. Now it's up to Dethroner. Now it's up to G-Bunny as well. Shadow's going low, but can you finish off the kill? Overtime is in favor of the Knights here. You have to get a touch if you're the Renegades, and you have to do it quickly because the respawns are starting to come out.
And if there's anyone who can do it, it's Shadow. He keeps it going, and they get a kill off of it. They get rid of the Dethroner, but G-Bunny's still alive. He's low, and that means the door is open, and Vocal picks up a couple of key kills. Moonchopper is standing stalwart as long as he can on this point, and the Knights are just dropping one by one.
The Dread Serpent coming out on the back end of that, maybe just trying to find some space, not really finding anything, maybe trying to just see if somebody could get in there and get a touch, but pretty quickly charging. We'll be okay with having used that. And that fight, I think, Gore, was kind of on the back end of just Invocal being able to chill outside of the point area and just pour out damage.
And showcase 2 great things. One is exactly what you want your Victor to be able to do in this map, and what Victor brings to this map, which is, as long as I'm standing over here, you're dead. There's not much of a chance that you're going to be able to withstand my damage. But it also showcased why Eevee can be so good in an overtime, and it is, I'm going to blink in, ice block. This is going to buy a lot of time on its own. I'm going to soar out, then I'm going to blink back in. I'm just going to continually reset this timer so that no matter what you do, even if I die in the long run, I keep this thing going for my team.
Well, what matters is that they look great right now. Here's the Ice Storm. That's aggressive. It's going to go in. He's not going to find a kill, but it's enough to find a zone. The Knights are firmly pushed back in their base here. Shadow is looking to keep this Eevee train rolling. I mean, it's almost a perfect harmony here with the Victor. You get everyone looking for you. Which way are you going to wormhole? Which way are you going to blink? In the meantime, Invocal is able just to kind of hang back and pour out some damage. The Enlightenment comes out, finds a chunk onto the Eevee, and that's why Shadow ends up falling. Invocal is going to run his chicken self away. G-Bunny with a few. And it looks like they're able to stall out this push here for the moment.
And unfortunately for that was just really well played from Pan. That was running around the tree, doing something that you get to see. Sometimes people will do it to the champion themselves, depending on how fast you can turn around.
Right.
Just kind of keeping you chasing him, always breaking that line of sight, so someone that is hit scan like Victor just can't get that final hit that he needs.
Right.
And then by the time you finally have the hook come through from Moonchopper, there was just enough damage and enough backup from Knights to close that one down and shut down Invoker.
Yeah, I mean, the damage charts looking at that, I mean, they're so in contention. I mean, obviously the 3 members,
34,000.
I mean, they're all within a team fight of one-upping the other. At the moment, though, it's the Knights who have the defensive damage in their favor. Invocal trying to find his footing with this Victor still. He's going low. I mean, losing Invocal at the beginning of one of these fights would spell certain doom, I think, on the side of Renegades. Not many ultimates available. As I say it, Payne's going to jump in and find one. Viral's down as well. That's their healer. That spells doom, like I said, for the Renegades, but Shadow's able to flip one around. It's not going to matter because the touch was not there, and the Renegades fall back. Pittsburgh Knights tied up 1-1 here.
Well, I hope during the pause you grabbed whatever snacks you might have needed at the very end. You grabbed a drink you might have needed during the break while they were getting into the game.
Right.
I think this one might go 3-3 just as well to try and close this out. And admittedly, between these two teams, again, first off, nothing I think that could be better for this set for them to be able to come in and showcase the strength. And this is actually something I got to talk to Meta Pusher at one point when they were going through a break. Because I was saying this game, when I came into it, I genuinely thought that maybe max 4-1, but the Knights were going to be able to control this entire thing because the Renegades, especially last week, just didn't have it. Whatever it was,
they had a rough week, right?
And so not only seeing this go to 7 games, but seeing at the level that they're bringing it to make it go to 7 games, the gap between NIP, who's at number 1 right now, and even number 8, which I think technically is going to be Space Station Gaming since they're listed at the bottom, it's not anywhere near as large as you might think.
Right. The team's all looking so close. Payne with a couple into the Dread Serp, and that's well played on the side of the Knights here. But now you got to look for Invocal to try to flip this fight around. You got to find somebody who's going to be able to stop Payne. The healing could be too much here. Invocal gets the better end of that one, but G-Bunny's able to clean it up. So still back and forth here, but I was surprised coming out of the drafts that you let Payne onto this pip again because of how well he's been playing it.
It doesn't even matter if you don't think it's going to be as big of a threat on this map. What comes down to is he's comfortable on it.
Yeah.
He just had a phenomenal game on it. You could shut him down all game for this set. He's still going to have that comfort. He's still going to be able to come in and make some plays, trying to make some plays like that, but the double CC immunity means no one gets chicken this time.
Well played there from the Renegades. Unfortunately, it's the Knights who find themselves on the front foot here, 99%. It's going to be up to Hero to get a touch, but he's going to fall as well as Moonchopper, and the Knights find themselves a point fight win here. And now the Renegades are the ones playing defense.
And here's the key to that. That Evil Mojo doesn't connect and doesn't get any kills. You know what that Evil Mojo does? It gets two ults that are used in, like, maybe the Whirlwind you can say, well, it's not the worst scenario for a Whirlwind. But what's that Seismic Crash going to find? The pip that's up in the air, like, even if it stuns him, you don't have the follow-up damage. You have a Grover and an Anara. You're not killing him off anytime soon. So it's just big in terms of pressure, and that's the reason he's been so highly valued for the Knights and why it's been playing such a big role. When you look at the other side, the only thing I could draw a comparison to is what is this Eevee doing? Right now it's getting kills, but during that entire point, where was it?
It was a big difference from what we saw in the first point fight. Shadow and Invocal combining for, I think, 4 of the kills, at least assisting in almost all of them in that first point fight here. Yeah, Shadow 8 and 5, Invocal 6 and 5, but yeah, Payne yet again 10 and 6. On the pip, G-Bunny 5 and 4. He's been a force. He's gotten Con almost every single game as well. We talk about the pip, but G-Bunny on the Con has been a force to be reckoned with. Shadow's finding his footing again here on the defense, and that's what you want if you're the Renegades. You need him to start finding that damage yet again, because that was the big linchpin, honestly, in their first fight. Throwing her with a couple.
Jeez. And I mean, just
as I say it,
kind of flipping things back on their head, like the Knights. Or Renegades come in, they look really good. The Knights come in, they look really good. It's just, you could write a boxing movie, and it would be the movie moments, right? Where it's just, he gets a really, really good punch, and then he has one that comes right back at him. And it's just like back and forth until someone is left knocked out at the very end. And honestly, you don't know who.
I mean, I feel dumb because the way the Renegades started, I was like, all right, they're going to push it through. Wow, their push is looking really good as well. They might make this 2-0. And now I'm kicking myself because, of course, it's not. And yet again, Shadow and Moonchopper now find some kills. Now the kills are coming up in favor of Renegades. The Knights are on the back foot. The Enlightenment comes out, but Rakata falls for his troubles here with 20 seconds left. The payload is stalled out yet again. Gore, I think we need to implement win by 2 maps in this league, so we can literally be here the entire day. Because I don't think
run
either.
Out of maps.
I don't think. No, they reset once all the maps have been played. I'm going to put it into law because I don't think either of these teams would win. I think it's so close.
Once you hit the last available map, it actually goes into the banned maps, and then it restarts.
Then it resets, right? Once everything's been played.
No, I mean, this is just,
I think we can make it through them all.
phenomenal. I mean, I genuinely think if this was a best of 9 instead of best of 7, we would go 2 more maps.
Yep.
We would end up watching those because of the fact that these two teams are going back and forth. Knights right now had a chance to be able to make this a 3-1. They'll give themselves a lead, but there is going to be a barrage. There is going to be a whirlwind available, and soon enough, an Ancient Rage. All they need is a kill, and they get rid of Pan and Ricotta. That's huge for the Renegades.
Yeah, the damage dealers. Shadow with a couple and Vocal with 1. Balanced as all things should be. 3-3, 2-2. Pittsburgh Knights and Renegades fighting for every inch of this one. These guys are going to need some food and a nap, I think, after this game today, because I'm sure emotionally and honestly mentally, I mean, you don't think about it, but in a way, like physically and mentally, I mean, a long, grueling set like this takes a lot out of you.
I mean, mental fatigue, just imagine coming into this set. It's now 2-2. This next point could very much decide the last 3 hours that these guys have been sitting in there.
Right.
And the thing is they're playing at this level constantly. There's no breaks. There's no, okay, well, this is like our defensive line is going in, so we can take a break. This is, you're on all the time. You have been spending these 3 hours pushing as hard as you can as a player. And so because of that, you're more likely to maybe see a mistake.
Right.
And one slip up at this level means the game.
Right. 1 for 1, though, so far. Some ultimates starting to come out. The Whirlwind, the only one used for the Renegades. A couple now out for the Knights, but Payan is down. That's the thing you got to look for. The Renegades could get aggressive here, and it could pay off very well for them. Trapped in the backline, though, is Dethroner on this Barrack. If he falls, that could be bad. Ricotta as well loses the 1v1 to Invocal, and the Renegades look poised to take this point, and a good zone could actually turn this into 3-2 now in their favor. Both teams have won 1, both teams have lost 1, and now the Renegades look like they're going to win point 3.
And you're looking at the most important point. Again, once you grab this, you not only go up 3-2, but you put yourself in a position to win. You find that push, you get those last few kills at the end of the round that you need, and this goes in and you walk away a champion for your team. But it's all going to depend on that. Right now, it's definitely solid.
Ooh, the overpower is going to be good for 1. G-Bunny, though, is going to fall for his troubles. Wait, did he Vine back in? I think he did. Viral didn't actually end up getting overpowered off the map there, and G-Bunny fell as well.
What a heal.
The Renegades, wow, well played there from Viral, getting himself back from the overpower and keeping himself alive. I'm not sure it would have made much of a difference anyway, but what it does mean is a big swing and the miss on a big ultimate like that. And the Renegades are actually getting close to having some up on their side.
And, you know, I will throw out there, and I think it's very, very important that Viral overall has been a phenomenal support player. Like, since the first time we got to see him in the league, and continuing that right now on the Renegades, it has just been so stellar to have that. And again, you will always underestimate what a good support does, because a good support is meant to make you look better. Viral is playing the game at a level, then same thing goes for Cuss, that it is making it easier for his team to be successful.
It's like, I forget what the saying is, but it's like if you say it, usually the way it works is if you start talking about a support, it's for the wrong reasons, because you notice that they're not doing what they need to be doing. In this case, though, both supports have been playing wonderfully this game. Viral, Cuss, Cutie doing a good job for both of their teams. 1 kill is going to spell a stall here for the moment. Renegades are going to try to slow things down, not wanting to force. The payload's pretty close, but this is kind of the big question mark as far as, are we going to be able to push it in? They have the Leon up on the bridge. They have some barrack turrets scattered around the field here. Moonchopper is going to get up and get aggressive. You have to watch out for a hook here. I mean, a good hook onto a Leon, onto a Damba, onto one of the squishy characters, getting them down onto your level, flips a fight on its head.
This payload is just outside, just under the catwalk here. The kill coming down from Ricotta, though. That's going to be some early kills. That honestly might just be done and dusted for the Renegades here. All you need is a good zone, and that
Does
stops.
nobody want to win? I'm sure they both do, but one team has always been, well, of course they both do, but both
it becomes the game of who wants it more.
Who wants it more, right. But they have 30 seconds left. A clean sweep is not going to get staggered out too heavily for them, so they have one final chance at a push here. Pittsburgh Knights using the Dread Serpent in that fight. The Ice Storm comes out, so just 1-for-1 ultimate-wise. The Overpower is coming up from its whiff earlier on. So how much? Now the question becomes, how much do we try to spend to stop this from going through? The Renegades actually, I think, are in a good spot because they can just kind of charge. They maybe smell out a push coming in. They can use it, but the Knights are fighting to stay in this series here.
I mean, this is going to be very, very solid for them if they can get maybe just one good hook, get a kill early on, set this up for success. It depends on Shadow and Vocal and Moonchopper. The three
Finds the
pillars,
angle.
but they lose Hero very early on.
Hero drops. This is a big 1v1 here. The Enlightenment falls just short. Oh no, the Knights have found a clean sweep while we're focusing on the 1v1. In the meantime, Payan and Ricotta and Dethroner combined for the rest. Gore, wouldn't you guess it? We have a game 7.7. Because what else would this series have dictated? 100,000 damage marks starting to get crossed for a lot of these guys. This one's been tough, but it all comes down to one final point.
And, I mean, at this point, technically the Renegades have a 2-1 lead on point fights
Point
overall,
fights, right?
but
Make
that
it
doesn't
2-2 for full balance.
too much when it comes down to this. Whoever wins this not only wins the map 4-3, wins the set 4-3. And I mean, again, the implications that come out of this just for the teams, how strong they've been, how much they've been able to showcase. Very, very small shifts. Not even mistakes, but it's just, I assume he's going to do blank, or I assume he's going to do X, he goes and does Y. And if I don't get that prediction right, I lose this 1v1, or I lose this matchup. Like, those small things are coming into play at this point. And the Knights, they're giving up a little bit of room on the point early, but they're looking for the kills.
Ooh, Shadow finds Ricotta. That could be a big determining kill here. Doing a good job, and he still has so much health left, but Payan's going to answer with one back on a Moonchopper as well. Dethroner is so low on the Barrack, but can they clean it up? It's just a 1-for-1 at this moment. Neither team wanting to be the ones to go down, and Vocal actually cleans up Dethroner here. Cuss drops Shadow, though. Could that be the changing factor, Gore?
I mean, Cuss was left alone. Shadow is coming up behind him. It is very much a, I am the predator, you are the prey. I am going to come in and just chomp down on my new meal. And he comes out with the kill, and now they're locking it down. But Renegades are the ones dancing around the point.
Rage. There's the hook as well. The kill onto the support could spell the end here for the Knights. Ricotta, though, and Vocal drops Cuss Cutie. That's the healer that's now down. But Payan and Ricotta are stalling this fight out. He has 15 health on Moonchopper. Dethroner's the one on the point. But Payan cleans it up. This one's flipped on its head. Payan going huge on the pip now has turned this one around. 66% and climbing for the Pittsburgh Knights. The Renegades are going to have to rush in and get a touch.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Payan misses a shot there, then that ends up being another kill for Moonchopper.
You have to get in.
It comes down to the very end. Viral's going to be able to look at
nice
this, but
Evil Mojo.
The Evil Mojo locks him down. Moonchopper trying to get in and get the overtime.
Payan just finds the one. Moonchopper, though, reverses it onto Payan. Ricotta drops in Vocal, but makes it 2. Shadow, though, now comes back and answers with 1. It's just down to Shadow. There's 3 red characters dancing on the point, and it looks like the Pittsburgh Knights are going to flip this one around and take the win.
That was grueling. I mean, not just for them, but that fight back and forth. It's 99-99, and it comes down to, again, just a couple of key kills at the very end. And I'm actually, the long way back, I'm going to roll it back to the Renegades, and I'm going to say I think one of the biggest downsides was letting that pip through, because that comfort for Payan definitely paid off.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to look way further back, but look at Serpent Beach. You win, you win 3-point fights. You win 3-point fights and are unable to get them pushed through. That lives to haunt them. The Pittsburgh Knights won a grueling 7-game series. Let's send it back to the desk to break this one down.
Wow, wow, wow. What a match.
What do you even say
maybe
after
one
that?
of the best ones of the PPL thus far. The back and forth. We didn't know till the end. I mean, the last 15 seconds of that whole set decided it all.
My hypothesis of that last fight is that you don't really have a strategy anymore. That feels like that is the most just instinct-driven Paladins war at the end of that last fight on Frozen Guard.
Wow.
And I want to know if they feel the same. Is there still a strategy? Are they still communicating, laying out a plan, or are they literally just going in there, instincts, and somebody wins at the end of the day?
I mean, you got to say that there were moments in that last fight where it could have gone either way. I mean, Moonchopper makes it out with 15 health. He turns, sees that it's Payan there, gets one shot, can't get the second. Payan stays on a 12 streak with the pip. It did end up working out again, 95,000 damage, but you can't take away what Ricotta did, what Dethroner did. 19-12 for Payan, 18-13 for Ricotta. Shadow goes 17-13. The first pick, Makoa, though, goes 6-14, and that is not what they were hoping for, especially with how dominant he can be as an aggro tank. So,
haven't played it at all this set.
It's
Probably haven't played it in a while.
I
It doesn't
know.
make it through picks and pans very often. And then there is a conversation of like, is Makoa good enough on like a long range map like this?
And I also just
Longer range.
I mean, you got to give credit to when things are going well for the Victor, but the turnaround potential of a champion like that, it's so difficult for a Vocal. You saw he would take a duel with Pip. There's no way Victor can win a duel with a Pip Catalyst jumping on him in Weightless. There's just no way. He just is too hard. You cannot trace this. He's so good in general at just being damage tanky, essentially. He has a couple cards that can reduce that, and he can self-heal. There's no way to win that 1v1.
He's got over probably 3,500 effective health in these fights with his lifesteal between his self-heal. It is very, very tough to win a fight with Pip, and I think that's what Pain leaned on. In the early game, you have it because no one can cauterize it. In fights like that, you have it because they're not communicating, strategizing they're not making sure cauterize stays on you the whole time. Like, you're just scrapping it out at the end of that game.
I just love how he can be from one place to another. Like in that last fight, it looked like Moonchopper, he went for Cuss initially, and then, you know, they all lost track of where Pain was. It felt like no one really knew where he was until he showed up and he was on the 12 streak and he had found the final 3 kills. It seemed like every fight, every game we had seen Pain comes in at the end of a fight, triple kill, kills everybody. He's just been hopping around.
Oh yeah.
And man,
Evil Mojo's so stupid good too. That's such a good ability. The more I watch it and just watch tanks just get obliterated and poof into feathers, I'm like, dude, that's tough.
Nothing else can do that. Nothing else can do that. And you know, they relied on it. It worked for them. 3 games in a row. Pittsburgh Knights. They win the first one. They lose 3 in a row, and then they win 3 in a row. Holy moly!
I mean, it's a war. That was really a war. And I can't wait to get this interview because I just want to I want to go run and ask them questions too. I think the biggest thing was that turnaround moment when Cuss was weird. Like, he's like yelling at people in there. Like, what are they talking about? Because that was the turnaround point. To be fair, a little tough love.
It actually was. You're right.
From Papa Cuss.
Yeah, maybe that was something that shifted it off. I thought I saw the word aggressive in that, and maybe it's that he was talking about the aggressiveness Renegades have been showing earlier, or maybe it's punishing that aggressiveness, or maybe he's saying, guys, we need to be more aggressive on our end as well. Take this fight to them and open up space for Pain to really be this kind of like wild child and go anywhere he feels fit. In many ways, like from a soccer background, I see Pain as the midfielder. He can go help the offense, he can help the defense with a heal, he can take a 1v1 if he wants, and he's just setting up plays.
Yeah, that's what's crazy about Pip, but also you have to be a good player to make those good decisions. So I assume the same applies to a midfielder.
Oh yes, it's a very challenging thing because you have to know when and where to be and where to put the ball and who to give it to when. Sometimes when to shoot yourself. Pain did a lot of that, and we have a chance to go and interview the boys, the winners from Pittsburgh. What an incredible set. Let's send it down to Dave and Gore and hear what they have to say about it.
Thank you, guys, and we're sitting down here with a couple of the big winners for the day. That was a long one, guys, a full game 7, or a full 7 map set, I should say. And it was very back and forth. You come out hot in the first one, they win a couple straight, it's back and forth. What's the big turning point there where you guys were able to win a few straight? What did you talk about?
I came in from the restroom. We were playing like garbage, and I told everyone we were playing like garbage. I tried to, put it as nicely as possible. I asked them if they wanted to win. Everybody said they wanted to win, and everybody started to play like they wanted to win. So it was a pretty embarrassing set for us, in my opinion. It shouldn't have gone that long, and we shouldn't have played the way we played. But I'm glad that I was able to get the boys going, and it wasn't all my doing, man. Everybody wanted to win. It's just somebody needed to be that spark plug, I guess.
And there were actually a few key moments, I feel like, after your pep talk came through, or if you want to call it a pep talk, where you could notice that individual performance kind of rising. And there's actually one specifically with you. Shadow is in the back line on Frozen Guard. He's got a couple kills, and you are isolated, but you were the one who was able to walk around and walk out with the kill. So what was it like, I guess, going into that, like the 3-3-point fight? Stress is pretty high at that point. How did you feel?
I just didn't want to lose. I mean, there's no other way about it. Like I said before, like winning that set was kind of embarrassing. Losing that set would have been embarrassing too. So I wanted the lesser of 2 embarrassments. So
I think it was after you were down 3-1 or something.
It was 3-1. Yeah, it was right after Frog Hour. Like, hey guys, we're not playing like normal. We're usually like a pretty aggressive team. It's usually being Pain, just like going in there and just taking a bunch of heat while Ricotta's just cleaning up kills. And
we had such a good practice week too.
That's what we thought. We were like kind of trying to read your lips. It looked like you were like scolding G Bunny. I don't know what the conversation was, but you had something to say, very black and white, and that kind of what it was.
Yeah, it was something like he kind of motivated me and told me I'm like already better than, or I'm a really good off tank compared to the other off tanks in the league, and he knows that I'm good. He knows I can outplay people. He knows I can take 2v1s and still like live or trade. And I stopped doing it after the second game when we lost because I feel like we kind of like tilted as a team almost because we were up 3-0. That first mid, we win the first fight, which means it should be like a guaranteed win. We still had ults up.
Yeah.
We fumbled it 2 or 3 times that game, and I think it just tilted our whole team.
Another question for me, 3-3 on Frozen Guard, Game 7, brutal last point fight as well. Is there a plan at that point, or is it pretty much just everyone's going in there, headbutting each other, instincts take over, and just somebody wins at the end of the day? Or do you try to keep a strategy together?
It was really just Dethroner said, "Okay, guys, I got first touch. Let's do this." And Payne said, I don't actually remember what Payne said, but he probably said something along the lines of, "I'm going to do something stupid." And
so you feel good about that?
Yeah,
that's
and that's fine because Payne, I don't think anybody looked at Payne the whole team fight. I was getting chased around by the Makoa for a little bit and then Eevee for a little bit, and I was just looking up at the top at the UI. I was like, God, I hope they're doing something, and Payne was doing something.
And Ricardo was too. Ricardo, that fight I think went full instinct, just wrapped around his Leanne.
Yeah.
Just got a ton of kills.
He's hitting the emote before the game's even fully over. Man.
Certain people weren't happy about that, but I was fine with it.
Love it. What a war, guys. Congratulations. Great set. You get the W at the end of the day. We're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be right back with set 2.
High Res, Evil Mojo, INAP, Steel Series, and Respawn.